Okay, good afternoon, everybody. So I just did a short clip with Billy Bean earlier because I had to go out. I just got home, and we're gonna have a big long show. I got all the running around done for my monthly errands, so the humidity's kind of high today. We got rain. I got the air on, and the fan on. Oh, wait here, a few minutes here. Oh, everybody got chat. How you feel, Carol? Well, it's probably because of the time. I'm starting at 4 o'clock. I got a different time again today. Hey, Dave. Yeah, I figured you've been lurking. I had to go out and do a few errands, and now I'm back, and today's schedule is messed up a little bit. I played two Billy Beans for an hour. That's all I played earlier. But I got all my stuff done for the month. So we'll be doing a lot of shows. All right, well, we go ahead and get started. Everybody will be coming in after I get the show going here. Yeah, I know how that happens, Carol. When I had that pizza the other day, that's why I had to stop the show because I had a heartburn. I'm eating the little pizzas. Yep. I did call Aunt Karen yet about yesterday's morning show. Did you hear the morning show yesterday at all? Anything interesting? Oh, I'll check with Karen. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. We'll start off with the short ones. This one's 3 minutes.
While we still had Attorney General Pam Bondi, she had sent me over to the FBI, and there is no active search warrant on that computer. And so they are saying that I am unable to view it without a new search warrant. And there has to be new information. I think these Epstein files give us new information to look into the Anthony Weiner laptop.
Yeah.
I absolutely want to know what was on there, what was the secret folder that was titled Life Insurance, that had frazzle.rip, where people get the frazzle drip story from. I want to see this video. If it's totally fake, if it's not there, I'll come out and say it. I want to see what people are talking about. These things don't just originate out of nowhere. So if it means issuing a subpoena from the Oversight Committee to get my hands on this laptop, then that's what I will do. If there's anything linking the Anthony Weiner laptop to the Epstein files, I will use that to get another search warrant. But I'm getting my hands on this laptop and looking to see what was in it. It's been said that FBI agents who went in and viewed this laptop, many of them are not alive anymore. And so, what is it with this laptop? Apparently, it's been said that many have committed suicide, that it was so disturbing. But also, a lot of people around Hillary Clinton and her cohorts seem to commit suicide, oddly.
There's a whole Wikipedia page.
A whole page.
Yes, that's right. There's a lot to unpack there, Congresswoman. So, why hasn't anybody seen what's on this laptop? And what do you expect to find?
Well, I think originally members of Congress were afraid of it. They were called conspiracy theorists, and there was obviously the man who went into Comet Ping Pong Pizza and opened fire. Unacceptable. And so people just want to stay away. I don't want to be associated with it. I'd rather not know. I'm just going to believe the narrative and run with that. I have an election to win. No need to actually dig into something if it's going to cost me my seat and my place in office. So I want to see it. I want to know what's on there and investigate it. There are many things that we still need to investigate.
Okay, that was a short one. That was only 3 minutes. Under 2 minutes.
Inside their community, they're trying to scare them from talking about potential fraud taking place inside of these communities. And think about it. They're literally willing to impose a $10,000 fine or imprisonment if you go and seek to find out the truth about a location that could potentially be fraudulent inside your own neighborhood.
Nick, let's just kind of play out that hypothetical. So whether you were in Minnesota, you also went to California, you would go up to the Quality Leering Center, a clearly fake daycare in Minnesota. There's your shirt. Yes, always on. And you would attempt to see if there's any children inside, right? And somebody comes out and talks to you. And now that person who's there possibly committing fraud could file a complaint in California that Nick Shirley is harassing me online, right? That's how it would work in effect. And then you would either see a year in jail or a $10,000 fine?
Correct. That's what it sounds like.
Oh. I don't know why that was only a minute.
10, 9, ignition sequence start.
Massive fuel tanks, reinforced concrete pads, countdown towers, hundreds of engineers staring at screens, sweating every second. Controlled explosions powerful enough to shake the ground for miles. Now compare that to what we're shown on the moon. A tiny metal cabin sitting on dusty ground, legs thinner than a street sign pole. And we're told this thing just lifted off with perfect precision. No launch pad, no blast crater, no scorch marks, no backup systems, no visible fuel tanks, no launch tower, no robotic arms. The lunar dust, completely undisturbed in the photos. Just a box on spindly legs that somehow breaks free from lunar gravity, perfectly times a rendezvous with a craft moving thousands of miles per hour, and then brings everyone safely back to Earth like it's a casual Sunday drive. Now imagine that same claim anywhere else. Someone says they drove a car out of a deep ditch, with no wheels, no engine, no ramps, and no tow truck. Would you believe it? The story sounds clean, until you slow it down, zoom in, and really look. That's when the questions start stacking up, and suddenly, the official version feels less like a memory, and more like a carefully written script.
Okay, our mask guy.
Astronaut Christina Cox, she was up there. She was the only female up there in several of the videos, but here she is again. Take a close look. Do you recognize her from this? That's because she was credited in 2015's Mad Max Fury Road as one of the Volvani. She was one of those mothered. You can even see it here listed. She's on IMDb. Oh, but it gets better because this movie, Fly Me to the Moon, was released in 2024. What was this movie about? White House hires a team to fake the Apollo moon landing so they can win the space race no matter what. The icing on the cherry in this movie, it's called Project Artemis, allegedly. And look, guys, I've debunked a lot of viral videos on people that have questions and think, oh, we faked going, and I've shut a lot of it down. But this one, I'm having a bit of a hard time with because it's right in front of our face. I still think we went to the moon in space, but I don't know, guys. What do you think?
That was a good one.
Oh, yeah. Tip jar. I'm his mother. Oh. How much did he take from you? Like something I couldn't pay attention. Like 20. What do you think he took from you? I see the first. I couldn't see the second. Is how much do you think he took from you? About $30. Like, but you don't need to pay. No, I'm gonna pay because my son wasn't raised like that. Why he is doing that? I don't want to ask. But no. Listen to me. My son wasn't raised like that. My son drinks, and when he drinks, he does stupid stuff. I want to pay you back because you don't deserve to be stolen from. You're here to do a service. I appreciate it. He took it from your tip jar. $30 go back to your tip jar. God bless you. I'm sorry, ma'am. It's okay. Sorry. I put my son in treatment. I pray he stay and get some help. But I want you to be okay. Can I come and hug? Of course. Yes. You know, I am live streaming. People like sharing everything everywhere. I'm sorry. It's okay. Okay, guys, let me hug. I'm sorry. You know, I like peace. Yeah. Come here, guys. Look. Yeah. Yeah. My mom too. You know. Yeah. I want you to be okay. Please. I always love peace, respect, love. That's what I always say. You do a good service. Sorry. Keep on helping this community. God bless you. Thank you.
You know, guys, we shout out to men all the time on this network, and it's good to shout out to the ladies as well, because without them, we wouldn't be here. And I tell you what, I absolutely love this mama. She is sitting there saying, you know what, I've got accountability in my household, whether my son is part of that or not. I'm going to make sure that everybody knows that my household is accountable, guys. And here's the thing. This woman knows it doesn't matter the age of her son because he's not young. I saw the front end of this clip. She's sitting there saying, he is my son until the last breath. right? I'm his mama, and I'm always going to have responsibility over that boy or girl, whomever it is, right? And that's the deal, guys. It's just too much of parents not involved. Doesn't matter their age or so forth. We need parents that are active and present and taking responsibility and being truly there for our children. When they make mistakes, we help them correct it. Absolutely love this woman. Thank you for being an example on this one, dads.
Another good one there. Okay, let's get a Benny video in.
For every job.
11 minutes.
I still maintain that the single smartest thing ever broadcast by View was the time when Whoopi Goldberg farted and burped at the exact same time during a live broadcast. Have a listen.
We'll still believe that he cared enough about his wife to pay the, that was gas. Pay.
Yes, we're well aware, and the View is undefeated in their gassy takes on Jesus this time. So the View is deciding to pop off on a Jesus controversy this week and did exactly what they often do, which is be 100% empirically and verifiably wrong, to the point of it being criminal here. Joy Behar saying, Jesus didn't just run around calling himself the Messiah. I'm the Messiah. No, that's exactly what Jesus said. I am the Messiah. No, he did not, says Joy Behar. Jesus was modest, okay? Go ahead and listen
Jesus
to this
himself
tape.
did not run around saying, I'm the Messiah, I'm the Messiah.
Jesus
This
kind of
guy,
did say he was
you're
the
supposed to have a little bit of...
That's exactly what Jesus said. I am the Messiah.
You know what? No, he did not.
It's been a minute since here's the thing.
The Pope's he's got God behind.
She just said, I knew Jesus.
Jesus was not narcissistic like this guy.
But when you are the Messiah, it's not narcissism to say it.
Yes, it is.
When you are the Messiah.
I'm going to move this along because this is like, it's too much for me.
Really great criticism of Jesus.
Yes.
Really?
Smart criticism of Jesus there by the View. Joy Behar is critiquing Christ. Now, let's just take these words.
I'm the Messiah, I'm the Messiah.
Jesus didn't just go around saying, I'm the Messiah, I'm the Messiah. All right, let's go ahead. Check. The woman said to him, I know the Messiah is coming, the one called the Anointed. And when he comes, he will tell us everything. Jesus said to her, I am he, the one who is speaking to you. At that moment, the disciples returned, and they were amazed that he was talking to a woman. Still said, what are you looking for? Why are you talking with her? And the woman left the water jar and went to the town and told the people, come see the man who told me he is the Messiah. Jesus did literally say he is the Messiah. This is from John chapter 4. Oh, there's plenty more. Why not? The high priest rose before the assembly and questioned Jesus, saying, have you no answer? What are these men testifying against you? But he was silent and answered nothing. Again, the high priest told him, are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One? And Jesus said, I am. And you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power, coming on the clouds of heaven. Okay, seems pretty clear that, by the way, that statement got Jesus crucified. Now let's go again here, shall we? But who do you say that I am? Jesus asked. Simon Peter jumped up and said, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God.
Just did a few
And Jesus
videos
said to him in
before.
reply, blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my heavenly Father. Well, that seems pretty demonstrable that Jesus is saying that he's the Messiah. And has Joy Behar ever read the Bible? Might be the next question. Real exchange from the Bible scholars on The View. Joy Behar says Jesus didn't run around saying he's the Messiah. I said it would be narcissistic to do that. And I love that she criticizes Jesus at the very end. When the other women of The View say, no, Jesus did say he's the Messiah many times, Joy Behar said, well, Jesus shouldn't do that. This is the level we've gotten to on The View of dialogue. Listen here to this.
Not narcissistic like this guy.
And but when you are the Messiah, it's not narcissism. Just say it.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is, says Joy Behar. I shall criticize Jesus. This is what you get when you watch The View. In addition to the Pope, Dolly Parton, and the Dalai Lama, Joy Behar puts The View on the list of people that you shouldn't pick a fight with. Joy Behar, you will come as a shock to your senses to learn that she is actually raised Catholic. So Catholics down bad here. Josephine Victoria Joy Behar is an American comedian. I don't think so. She was born Josephine Victoria Occhiluto in 1942, Brooklyn. She's the only child of a Roman Catholic family of Italian descent. You know, I could see if she's from another faith tradition, if she's Jewish, or if she, I don't know, just didn't practice any religion at all. But no, she actually not only was raised Roman Catholic, but she went to Catholic school. And then she got a BA in sociology from Queens College in 1964. Well, I can pinpoint your problem right there. There you go. Joy Behar is a Democrat as well. I don't know if she's practicing. I'm not sure. They need to end the stupidity of Joy Behar. Joy Behar never read the Bible. These women are stains on society. And, well, I mean, maybe that's true. What did Jeffrey Epstein know about the women of The View? And just an important reminder that the women of The View were mentioned multiple times in the Epstein files. Whoopi Goldberg is mentioned 24 times, 21. Alyssa Farah Griffin is 20 times. Joy Behar is mentioned 3 times. Joy Behar was like in like little clips, right? Little clippings of, her on media and stuff. There's no indication that Joy Behar was trying to be friends with Epstein or anything like that. But they were sending Joy Behar clips and commentary to each other. Sounds like hell on earth. It also sounds like hell on earth when you are being turned down by Jeffrey Epstein from flying in his jet. And this is the one that I find really funny. Whoopi Goldberg's agent got down on their knees and begged Jeffrey Epstein to fly on his jet to France. And the big promise was that Jeffrey Epstein could spend all of this time with Whoopi Goldberg by himself on the jet. That's what the emails show. Whoopi Goldberg is very upset about that. Saying, I didn't know that they were looking for a plane. I had no idea. I don't know. Well, they offered you up to Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein's response was, no, thanks. Kind of pretty smart, honestly. So it's been a exciting and hysterical meltdown. White House attacks The View after Joy Behar says Trump is jealous of Obama. Joy's an irrelevant loser. You should self-reflect before her show is the next to be pulled off the air. I did ask about The View from the FCC commissioner, and he was on the show. His name's Brendan Carr. And I said, how can somebody who's getting American tax dollars, the ABC gets American tax dollars and all of these special goodies that no other broadcaster gets, we certainly don't get, in order to broadcast fair and balanced reporting and give equal time? So how is this equal time, right? How are having 6 or 7 Democrats and only Democrat guests ever on your show equal time? Here's what Brendan Carr had to say. The View is under investigation. Yeah, the Vatican, for extremely unhappy left-wing single women sitting at home in the middle of the day, is The View, and they tune in religiously. And this has been a show that we obviously love because it provides an enormous amount of hilarity and content for us. But you're not laughing at all, as the FCC here has opened an enforcement action against The View over Democrat James Tallarico's interview. Can you unpack this for us, Mr. Chairman?
My company's audit efficiency for 60,000 businesses. As governor, my mega audits will...
Yeah, so Congress long ago passed a regulation, equal time, equal opportunity. So if you're going to have one political candidate on, you have to offer comparable time and placement to others, because Congress didn't want media gatekeepers deciding the outcome of elections. They wanted individual people to do that. Now, there's an exception to that rule for things that are called bona fide news programs, and Congress had in mind things like the old school Meet the Press. Now, flash forward to today, and every broadcast TV show apparently thinks that they're bona fide news, including The View. The View, Disney's product, is literally asserting that they are a bona fide news program and therefore do not have to comply with equal time. And we have launched an enforcement matter in that. We have welcomed them to file a petition with the FCC to try to obtain bona fide news status. And if they do that, we're going to take a look at it. But I think it shocks a lot of people to think that Disney's The View is itself bona fide news. And we'll see how this enforcement investigation plays out.
What about the balance on The View? I mean, is it, it's given the fact that this is a publicly licensed broadcaster, I mean, having a table full of 5 shrieking left-wing women agitating and campaigning against the president every chance they get, telling lies about the president, on Epstein Island and so on, as they've done, getting handed a note every 7 seconds, right, by their lawyers for corrections. I mean, is this something that ABC should be really broadcasting?
Well, part of the bona fide news analysis asks, and this is just in FCC case law for decades, is, are you motivated by partisan political purposes in the production of the program? And so when The View comes forward, either on its own or part of our investigation, that's what we're going to look at. We also have a policy at the FCC for broadcasters that goes to conflict of interest. So if you have a personal political conflict of interest on a matter that you're covering on a program, our rules say that you should disclose that. We're not saying you can't, be politically active, but in terms of, transparency being the best disinfectant. So we're also taking a look at, do we need to reinvigorate the FCC's personal political conflict of interest policy with respect to broadcasters? And we'll see where that goes.
Okay, another video. Yeah, Lucy, I did just one clip on Billy, 2 videos I did earlier. I had to go out. I just got home, so today's time is 4 o'clock. As long as we stay on, I had to get all my running around done for the month. Got everything done. Okay, what do we got here? Got 3 with her.
No better way for an Aries to celebrate.
I did that one, I think. Darn it. This one's a new one.
Out saying that he went to look and investigate into Charlie Kirk's assassination and the foreign influence involvement in that, and then Kash Patel shut that shit down.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, just said the quiet part out loud, pumpkin. Also dismantled the counterintelligence unit just a few days before we attacked Iran that handled Iranian assets. Those relationships take years and decades to form, and he dismantled it down to, I think, like 2 people. Why would you do that, Kash? Why would you do that? So for this, I want to paint the picture of just who our FBI director is and how he got to where he is and the weird things that I found. I spent my career at the CIA and NSA and also advised other intelligence agencies. I now have my own corporate intelligence firm. All of these opinions are my own. This analysis is my own for entertainment purposes only. You can find my deep dive investigation, sources, proof, everything on my Substack. I can only do so much in 3 to 5 minutes. I'm also launching my podcast there this month. Kash Patel was a public defender in Florida, and how he got his rise to fame was he worked on an intel committee down there as a public defender, and when the Trump-Russia investigations were going on, he wrote a letter saying how great Trump was. He was so innocent. MAGA, Trump, they all loved it so much. Trump then gave him a position on the National Security Council, and then he became chief of staff at the Pentagon. January 6th happens. Kash Patel was going back and forth on text with Pentagon and everyone that was involved. And then his phone was wiped clean. So when Congress went to get the records, all the texts were gone. And Pentagon says, that's standard protocol, bro. I will tell you, it is not necessarily standard protocol. Kash Patel then is like, oh, I've got to start my side hustles. And he sells anti-COVID vaccine pills, saying these are going to take away your COVID vaccine for $75 a bottle online. They were actually zinc and pineapple extract. I need to know if any of you bought them. Then he goes on to write children's books about King Donald Trump. I think he wrote 4 to 6 of them. And there was a wizard, that was Kash Patel, and he saved Trump. Like, you can't make this shit up, guys. This is our director of the FBI. He also starts a nonprofit, and it raises $1.3 million, and it is going to law services to help anyone that speaks and defends MAGA, January 6th, veterans, everybody. But 10% of those funds went to the actual people they were supposed to help. The rest of those funds went to merchandise, fundraising, and then $275,000 to $280,000 went to his friend who owns an LLC as a vendor. He didn't report that in his first 990. He had to go back and report it and correct it. He then has a consulting firm. All right, he starts Trishul. I think that's how you say it. His clients are the Chinese parent company to Shein, in which he has $5 million of stock, yet he refuses to give that up. He refuses to get rid of the $5 million of stock. So our FBI director still has $5 million of stock in a Chinese company, yet we had to get rid of TikTok because they were spying on us. In honor.
Another good one with her. I got a Melania just came out with a clip. Oh, thanks for sharing. What time is that going to be on there, Paul? Three minutes.
Nutrition, clothing, and healthcare. In safeguarding our children's well-being, we shape the integrity of our nation. But to get there, a strong knowledge base is required. Education is the cornerstone of a child's future. Clearly, education is the foundation that can remain throughout one's lifetime. Yes, knowledge is permanent. In 2021, I launched Fostering the Future, a nationwide initiative to provide individuals from foster care community with access to education and at the university level. My goal is to prepare these individuals to secure entry-level jobs, become financially independent, and eventually innovate, create new businesses, and generate employment opportunities. When I first developed Fostering the Future, one thing became very clear. The foster care community requires action over awareness. This truth stands today. I'm proud to share that Fostering the Future currently maintains a footprint of over 20 universities across the country from coast to coast. In fact, academic institutions such as Vanderbilt University, University of Miami, LSU, UVA, University of Texas, The Ohio State University, and the University of Alabama all educate Fostering the Future students. Although reports vary, roughly 3% of individuals in foster care community earn a college degree in 2025. We can close this gap. But still, foster youth face a special set of challenges outside the classroom that have a serious impact of their academic performance. These issues include housing instability, educational advocacy, financial barriers, transportation, continuity, access to technology, and other related issues. New legislation for the foster care community is a moral imperative. Some of you joined me in the White House last November for the signing of the Fostering the Future Executive Order. And although the executive order is a transformative vision, Congress now has the opportunity to create a lasting positive impact on this community. Beginning here in this room, we can once again change people's lives. With the new legislation, we can ensure that the opportunity is more than helpful for individuals in the foster care community, it can be their birthright. Thank you.
He loves the Constitution.
Okay, that was a good one.
Of now former Representative Eric Swalwell in bed. As the president's heading to Las Vegas. While Eric Swalwell was in Las Vegas in this video, I'm told, according to geotagging, this scandal has erupted now. Accusers coming forward, many others coming forward, as well as questions regarding his extremely close relationship with Arizona Senator Ruben Gallego. And I want to know if the administration had any comment on the fact that Senator Gallego seemed to be very vocal about wanting the release of the Epstein files, and yet when questions come to his own involvement with Eric Swalwell, he doesn't seem to want to provide anything.
Yeah, look, I think the accusations and allegations against former Representative Swalwell are despicable and disgusting. I think it's also quite plausible, as you point out, Jack, that there were many other Democrats in this town on Capitol Hill who knew about his perhaps illegal behavior, certainly his disgusting and inappropriate behavior. And why were they silent for so long? I think those are questions that must be raised of these sitting representatives, including Mr. Gallego. And I hope that the journalists in this room will do their jobs, and the journalists on Capitol Hill will do their jobs to ask Democrats in power how they knew about such despicable behavior from one of their elected representatives for so long, but never said or did anything about it. So that's what we hope to see as far as the White House and the president is concerned. Thank you.
Be sure to.
Okay, I'll just a minute or so. Yeah, Paul, I got something here we'll watch. It's 11 minutes. I don't know what this was all about.
Relaxing spa, soothing eucalyptus bubble bath.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me once again is Jonathan Panikoff with the Atlanta Council. Jonathan, thanks so much for coming back on.
Thank you for having me again.
I want to talk about the moment we're in right now when it comes to the war against Iran, because as you and I sit here, it's been a week into the ceasefire and a few days out from that first round of negotiations between the U.S. and Iran. They were a marathon, over 20 hours, but they didn't result in a deal. Iran has said they still control the Strait of Hormuz. And after the talks, the U.S. said that they're imposing a blockade of ships entering or leaving Iranian ports in the Strait. So to start off the conversation, where do you think we are in this moment?
There's a couple of things to kind of think through here. It's true that there wasn't a deal, but we've already heard rumors that there may potentially be another round of negotiations upcoming as soon as this weekend, potentially. And so I think what the real indication is,
I think this is a
from
good
the
channel.
U.S. side, I think President Trump really does want to try and figure out how to get to some sort of deal, or more likely, the framework of a deal. I think a comprehensive deal is going to take a lot more time. But my sense is he believes, like in the Gaza Strip, if he can get to a framework, then it may allow for a more permanent cessation of the conflict. The Iranians, on the other hand, right now still don't have huge incentive to negotiate. That could change, and the blockade, I think, is part of that and part of U.S. efforts to make Iran reconsider its strategic position. But the reality is the Iranians have over 157 million barrels worth of oil on the open market already that is already they're going to get revenue from. So they still have a little bit of time before which, for instance, their economy would be really affected in such a meaningful way. And so I think that the timelines here are a little bit different, and we'll see at the end of the day how the negotiators get on.
Like you said, reporting indicates that both sides have said that the door isn't completely closed here when it comes to diplomacy. There's still at least some sort of an appetite for another round of negotiations. And after the first round, Vice President J.D. Vance, he essentially said that the United States has a red line and Iran did not agree to those terms in this red line. What are some of those biggest points of contention that both sides still face, and how do you think they could or could not be hammered out?
Yeah, so look, I think for the U.S. side, there's kind of a couple of key fundamental points. One is obviously the Iranian nuclear program and what enrichment is going to look like or not look like with the highly enriched uranium, the 440 kilograms that's still in Iran, how that's going to be dealt with. And of course, now the strategic challenge that didn't exist, ironically, before the war is the Strait of Hormuz. In other words, is Iran going to be allowed to keep a toll booth, so to speak, or are we going to revert to a more traditional open maritime passage for all shipping? That is kind of the U.S. side's focus, I think, on those two big issues. On the Iranian side, I think it's the same. There's been things like demands for restitution, which I think the Iranians know is not going to happen. From their perspective, there's going to be a question, too. Can we rebuild our ballistic missile capacity? Is the U.S. going to give in on that a little bit? My sense is the U.S., and President Trump has already said this, has destroyed Iran's military capabilities, its ballistic missile capabilities. The truth is they have been severely diminished. Whether or not at the end of the day there's a compromise there is probably going to require the U.S. to actually accede, if not explicitly, then implicitly, to certain things like Iran's ballistic missile capabilities and not trying to reinforce its prohibition on them being rebuilt, at least not through this negotiation. And the Iranians are going to have to give up on things like restitution. But even if all those things happen, you're still left with the nuclear question and with the Strait. And there, the Iranians don't have a lot of incentive to negotiate. On the nuclear side, it's probably easier to get a deal. There was already a framework close to being in place before the war started from previous negotiations. And so in an ironic turn, we may be very similarly positioned to where we were before the war in terms of what comes out of this, with less Iranian tactical capabilities, but a stronger strategic position in controlling the Strait of Hormuz.
To that point, one of the things that the revelations that have come out in the past 6 or 7 weeks or so is the fact that the Strait of Hormuz is such a big piece of leverage that Iran possesses. President Trump, he's made no secret over the years that he's not a fan of the JCPOA. He has ripped Obama for it. How close do you think this deal, by the time everything is said and done, it gets hammered out, if it does get hammered out, will resemble the JCPOA? Will it be better or worse?
Join Planet Fitness for 1 cent down, $15 a month. No commitment. Deal extended to April 16th.
Do you support Israel and the Jewish people? Now, more than ever, Israel needs committed.
I think it's going to be quite different. Look, the reality is we're in a far different place than we were about over 11 years ago when the JCPOA was signed. The reality is Iran is much closer to having the technical expertise and the capabilities to produce a nuclear weapon than they were at that time. So whether you were a fan or not, I think the idea that it somehow is going to look the same is probably less likely. I think what's been interesting is, look, President Trump has always said there can be zero enrichment, and in addition to their zero enrichment, there can be no timeline. In other words, it has to be in perpetuity. But what we know from negotiations that's been reported in the media is the U.S. actually did have a timeline. It had a 20-year timeline of no enrichment. Iran put out a 5-year timeline. And so you would think that that's going to be the basis for negotiation. At the end of the day, the real challenge is going to be, I think, for the Iranians, that they view a nuclear weapon as a fundamental deterrent that they want to be able to, if not have, threaten to get. For the U.S., it's going to be really, I think, where the rubber is going to meet the road. It's going to be hard for the U.S. to accommodate Iran, certainly in like the 5, 7, 8-year period. But I think a negotiation can be worked out there. The question just becomes, are you actually safer than we were before? And the reality is it's different than JCPOA because of how closer Iran is, how much their knowledge has increased, how much their technical expertise and capabilities have increased related to their nuclear program.
To that point, that safer component, do you think that America is safer now than we were then? Or do you think we're even safer now than we were 6 or 7 weeks ago before February 28th at the beginning of this war?
I think it's not quite clear. Look, my sense is this is going to end with Iran in, frankly, a better strategic position and a worse tactical one, because I do think you're going to get to the point that Iran has some sort of, if not influence over the Straits or control of the Straits, then what the U.S. is going to have to trade to ensure that it's reopened fully without a toll booth is going to be, for instance, the removal of sanctions, the accommodation of Iran in selling, let's say, oil on the open market to gain extensive revenue. Somehow it's going to be very, very difficult unless the U.S. decides it wants to go back into war and back into conflict. And I don't think that President Trump wants to do that. It's going to be a challenge to accomplish, frankly, a situation in which the U.S. has a better strategic result. If the nuclear program is managed and the Strait of Hormuz is managed, then yes, the U.S. would be in a better strategic position because Iran's ballistic missile capability and ability to support proxies is also severely diminished. I don't want to estimate the challenging situation, incredibly so, that Iran is in domestically when it comes to their own economics. And eventually the population will challenge that as well, I think. But that's going to take a lot of time. And so you have a harder line regime that's angrier than it was before the war started, at least for our close allies in the Gulf and in Europe, and for Israel. You would think that that risks Iran being, frankly, more of a challenge, and those countries being, frankly, under greater threat in the coming months to years, not less. Whether or not the U.S. sees it on our shores, I think is probably less clear.
President Trump's rhetoric since the start of this war has really been all over the map. But over the past couple of days, he's really indicated, based on what he's been saying, that he doesn't have much of an appetite to continue this conflict much longer. Even over the weekend, he said, regardless of what happens, we win. We've totally defeated that country. And so let's see what happens. He also said just this week that the war is very close to over. He also added that we're not finished. And he said that another round of talks could soon happen. What do you think the off-ramp is here? And what do you think is next for this conflict in general?
Look, I think the off-ramp is a negotiated, frankly, ceasefire that's extended because you have some sort of framework agreement. I think that's where we're headed, certainly on the U.S. side. I think the Iranians, if they don't get a decent deal from their perspective, yes, I think that they are in a challenging position, but I think they believe that they have more time on their side than the U.S. does, both from a domestic political perspective, but also simply just the economics of it. Iran is used to being a country that is hamstrung, that is sanctioned, and we have seen time and time again has no problem, unfortunately, killing thousands, tens of thousands of its own people if there's internal protests. That's what really kicked all of this off, we'll remember, in early January. And I think we've forgotten about the Iranian people in some of this, unfortunately. The reality is, going forward, there was a less likely scenario, a worst case scenario, I'll put it as, in that, look, you really don't get to an agreement and the U.S. re-engages kinetically. You start to have more conflict. The U.S. strikes some of the targets President Trump had talked about previously, infrastructure targets, power plants, for example. And at the same time, then you see Iranian retaliation against Gulf energy sites, probably pipelines, the East-West pipeline in Saudi Arabia, again, it's civilian targets in places like Dubai and Abu Dhabi. And then we have another cycle of violence. But even if that happens, eventually there's still going to have to be some sort of negotiation. The U.S. is not going to, I think, be powerful enough or want to put so many boots on the ground to try to conquer the country Iraq style. And I think doing so would be, frankly, almost impossible.
Well, there's certainly a lot to look out for. I always appreciate your insight here at different points in this conflict. Jonathan Panikoff, you are welcome back anytime. Thanks for the time today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, I hope that was a good channel. I think it was. We got Watch the Water rating, 5 minutes.
I let the woman have it. My insurance keeps going up. I had an accident back on July 14th in 2025. And long story short, she told me it's just all because I'm in a different tier and all this stuff. And Anyway, I just want to go into it with you guys. So I started talking to her about all the restrictions that insurance is doing on us, how many miles we drive, if you're married or single, talked about the beast system. And I said, you guys are trying to force us into these 15-minute cities so we don't drive less. I go, if I want to drive 2,000 miles to see my kids, it's not up to you whether or not you tell me where I can drive. It's free. It's supposed to be freedom, right? She's like, well, my rates shouldn't be the same when I don't go anywhere. And I said, tell me back when you were 16, because I know her, she is the same age as me, that they told us more where we can and can't drive. Because some insurance companies now are putting cameras in your car so they can watch you and what you're doing when you're speeding and all this stuff. I said, where's the freedom? I go, you guys, not you in general I'm talking to, but these big entities, these corporations are trying to eat up the little peons, these little mom and pops, so they can control us and get us to buy EVs. And then, of course, the EVs are $50,000. So if you can't buy $50,000 cars, then what happens?
Okay.
Then you're pushed into their control of the 15-minute cities. So I said, people like you that want to work for these conglomerates, these corporations, which corporations, corpse is death. So there's no use of us trying to get anywhere. I go, I drive 3.1 miles to work, but if I decide if I want to drive to Iowa or go do something, it's none of your effing business where I go. I go, God gave us free will. And she didn't know what to say. And I said, listen, I said, I know you know, because you and I have had face-to-face conversations. She goes, well, it's not fair for people like you that want to drive all over the place. I said, it is, because you've made over $200,000 of money from me since I was 16 years old. And I get nothing from that. But because I get in an accident and you guys get to divide us, I go, in South Carolina, it's actually cheaper than it is in Arizona. And she said, well, I go, oh, wait, hold on before you speak. I said, because it's divided by a line, South Carolina, then you go Tennessee. But because all these lines are drawn, you guys get to pick and choose what you want to do and what kind of laws you instill in us. So the fact is, the matter is, you're working for a system that's demonic, that doesn't support God, because if you did, you wouldn't give a crap where we travel to. And if you have kids and you're a grandma, because I know her, I said, you should understand that. My kids are far away. Yes, I chose to be away, but there's reasons for that. So when it comes to human trafficking and stuff, you just don't understand. You don't understand what you're working for, the beast system. I said, and they're putting us in the slave system that they're expecting us to, comply, just like COVID. I said, and she didn't know what to say. I said, try to fight me on it. Tell me where the credit system, when was the credit system important when we were young? I go, let's do the reviews of the people that are giving us our credit numbers. Let's check their credit numbers. How do we prove that they're not assholes? Do you understand what I'm saying? And I was very calm and collected, but I had my facts, and she didn't know what to say. She goes, well, make sure you do this. I said, how can you prove, that where I'm driving? Oh, it's right. You guys want to put cameras in our cars. I said, if I want to pick my nose and eat it, or if I want to go do something in my car, it's none of your fucking business what I do. And she goes, okay, I have someone coming in. I have to go. Yeah, because she goes, just let me know. I go, the fact of the matter is, yeah, you listen to me, but maybe you learned something. We have to be free. And that's the problem. God did not intend us to be enslaved in this system by all these companies. And I am progressive. And she goes, we just had a drop. I said, no, you did not have a drop, because my insurance went up again, paying $3,000 a year for something. She goes, you can lower your rates. I'm not lowering my rates. I don't want to talk to you about lowering my rates. I want you to hear from the customer that's paying you for your job. And that's what you should do. You are a customer service rep, and that's what it's about. And she had to go. So I nailed her ass, and I was very nice and respectable. But the fact that she couldn't agree, she's in a demonic system. And when she said to me, it's not my fault you decide to drive all over the place. You freaking witch. And that's BS. And guys, if we don't stand up to this shit, it's about us. Like, should we have to pay insurance? Maybe something little to protect us, but these big conglomerates keep going up and making their money in their big pockets. And that's what I told her. You're putting money into the big billionaires. You are the middleman. It's not fair to us. When are you going to come and support us and be there for us, we the people? Because we the people are the ones that vote with our feet. So we the ones that can take your job away. And so anyway, just thought to spill this out to you guys this morning. I just am starting to shop insurance, and just wanted to give my little 5-minute spiel about what just happened, because we need to stand up for our rights, you guys. We have them, use them. Do not be afraid. What does God say if you're not? So just remember that. Anyway, I hope you're all having a good day. I have today off, so I have some time to look into things. There's a lot brewing and a lot of disinformation. So anyway, have a great day. Thanks.
All right, here's Troublemaker. You say hi to everybody, huh? You say hi. Huh? It's kind of muggy. The humidity's high today, I think. Short one.
Was Rattletrap 1776 to quite a few out there. Just want to go live. Took a break off from last weekend because of the resurrection. So, anyways, just want to go live and have some fun today because a lot of you are seeing a lot of weaklings lately. You're seeing what a bunch of spoiled, well, we'll just stick with spoiled Americans, for lack of better words. I have some words, but they probably wouldn't be too happy of them. But anyways, you know, this is out to, we're going to do a shout out in another manner. We're going to say, dear libtards, dear rhinos, dear all you resurfacing never Trumpers, you went in your holes for a while, and all of a sudden you're coming back out, but now's not time for you to come out. You're looking even more dumber than what you ever did. All of you title people, oh, I'm a Republican and the GOP and the conservatives, you don't know doo-doo on top of doo-doo. Then we got veterans out there, not many, but there's a few, in the military-industrial complex. All right, you're all about your deployments and you're all about your badges and your combat badges and all this stuff, but now you're all of a sudden taking arms with President Trump. No more foreign wars. Well, you might want to turn in your badges because that's hypocrisy at its finest. You're either for it or you're not. And if you're not for it, then you need to turn in everything that you have and also go down to the VA and say, I don't want any of my privileges anymore, because now you got them. You're either on board with the commander or you're not. Every single one of you military-industrial complex veterans, all you DD-214 and zero laws and orders that you served under, military law is separate. It's one thing that civilians don't know that. There's another thing. When you raised your right hand and you took an oath under Title 10 or Title 32, doesn't read the same. When you took that oath, you took an oath to forever swear by that oath, which means, what does it say inside of it? Let's just break it down. To support and defend the Constitution against what? All enemies, foreign and domestic. What's up, everybody?
Okay, I got another DJ. 5 minutes. Then we'll do the YouTube lady, okay?
Christian, which you Catholics struggle with because you allow the priests and the Pope and the cardinals and all those to rule and dictate your life, majority of you. You're missing the principle is that everybody's human. We all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. The Bible tells you this if you would read it. It tells you this. You don't need some little boxcar Willie in a box over there confessing your sins. The whole point of Jesus Christ, if you believe in God and believe in Jesus, then you got to understand what the Word of God says. The whole point of Jesus Christ being sent on earth, the crucifixion, is for him to be the intercessor between you, right here, and God. You don't need some other, whatever. I call it the trail of boxes or whatever. You don't need that. You people worship. You worship more in a cult than anybody out there. Now, you can still be a part of it. Don't make you right or wrong, bad or whatever. You can still do that. I'm not judging you here on what your choices are, which proves the point. All I say is if you walk up to the average Catholic on the street, you never met them, and you just have the integrity or guts or whatever it is, you just say, hey, are you Christian? 9.9999999 Catholics out of 10 will say, I'm Catholic. That wasn't the question. If you ask me if I'm a Christian, I wouldn't say I'm Baptist. I'd say, yes, I'm a Christian. Then you say, well, what denomination are you? What religion? You know, oh, I'm a, name it. But that still don't matter. None of that matters. And Catholics struggle with the fact that your root word is a Greek word that came from the 16th century, kalalikos, which just means universal. Universal what? So see, if they actually knew the principle here, it's more about the people out there that call MAGA a cult. Well, the same people who call MAGA a cult, when the Pope comes out from behind them walls, guess what they're doing? Oh, what's he going to say? Oh, yeah, you need to do this. Oh, yes, Pope. Yes, Pope. So you prove the point. And we live rent-free in your minds because all you hear is, oh, he's saying something about the Catholics. Oh, let me react. You're not listening to the principle. If you still didn't like it, you could still be like, take it as a joke. Be like, you know what? That is true, though. We do say that. Because you do say that. Anybody who's not Catholic knows this. We all know this. When you walk up to, or anybody sitting around, are you Christian? I'm Catholic. It's the same thing with people who do yoga, people who do CrossFit. They're the first to tell you they do I didn't ask you that. I don't care. I don't care what you do. They tell you in the first 5 minutes. So people don't listen. And right now, the whole military government, see, that's the priority is what's going on right now in the world. What's going on in our nation? It's a unique 45-47. It's a strategic special operation. And while the swamp's been drained, we also have to get back to common man. Why is everybody so quick to react? Why is everybody so quick to get mad? Why does everybody just want to fight? Why does everybody think that it's your duty to get in the comment box and just, blah, 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 blah. Same thing, my inbox lit up with Martin Luther. Oh, man-made religion, question mark? Yes, Catholicism is a man-made religion. It most certainly is, like all the others are man-made. Have nothing to do with God and Jesus Christ and the living Word of God. Every denomination is a man-made. So why are people named, Martin Luther? Martin Luther lived and died 62 years old of a stroke that some of you are going to have because you cannot listen to a principle. You cannot hear a principle. The principle is, I'm not saying you're right, not saying you're wrong, not saying you're good, not saying you're bad. Just saying that a president is a man just like everybody else. He lives, he's going to die. He has a spirit and a soul. And the whole point of Christianity and being a Christian is to repent to God through Jesus Christ. That's the whole point. The Bible tells you this. And if you read the Bible, studied the Bible, you would know what the Word of God says, and you wouldn't have to go through all this rigmarole that you think you have to go through to be a this or a that, whatever you want to be. The whole point of being...
Okay, we got 2 wins so far. All right, Kay. Yes, you.
OMG, y'all. Travelers swear by this one trick. What's up with mom?
Can you go ahead and turn around for me real quick? I'm just going to detain you and put you in handcuffs, okay?
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. Yes, ma'am.
Why?
Please.
Imagine calling the police because somebody punches you in the face and you're the one that ends up going to jail. That is exactly what has happened in today's body cam video. Let me tell you right now, this entire situation started off as something really small, like most of them often do, but the way that it spirals is absolutely wild. Because what you're about ready to see is what happens when somebody thinks, I'll just handle this myself real quick. And that decision turns into handcuffs, charges, and a very, very bad day.
On August 12th, 2025, an officer responded to a call about a battery.
Hello, all right, who's involved? Who called? You called?
I called up this gentleman.
What's up, man?
Hey, how you doing, sir?
Are you hurt?
No, not really.
Did you witness this?
No.
No? Anybody around? Just you and him? All right. So what's going on, man?
I live upstairs and I'm trying to work. I had a phone call coming and this noise just keeps going and going and going. So just was on the balcony, and I was like, "Excuse me, like, can you make that noise stop?" Because he wasn't in the vehicle, it wasn't moving or anything. Like, can you just make the noise stop? Like, I have to get on this phone call. People live up here, and he just dismissed me. So I came down and I was like, "Can you please make this noise stop?" And he's like, "Get out of here." And I'm like, "Oh, I'll get the out of here." So I come around to the side. I didn't get in the vehicle, but it was slightly open. So I just stepped up and I shut it off one notch. He pulled me by my arm down. And he like held on to me really tight and like pulled me. And so I pushed him to get off of me. And then he punched me in the face.
Okay. So this woman, first of all, this is broad daylight, right? Obviously, this guy is trying to do his job. He's in a truck of some kind. I don't know exactly what he's doing. He might be in a dump truck. It might be a garbage truck. It's probably just a construction vehicle of some kind. It's apparently making a little bit too much noise for her. She has an important phone call to make. And so she decides to demand that he stops the noise with the truck. And when he tells her, just like, get out of here, I'm doing my job, she takes it upon herself to walk her happy ass around his truck, open the door, reach in, and switch it off? Really? Ma'am, you have got yourself a big old pair of brass balls. Now, was he right to grab her? Probably not, but I'm assuming it was probably something instinctual. She probably reached her arm in and he grabbed her instinctually and probably tried to pull her arm a little bit, but she shouldn't have been doing that.
Okay. You have your ID or anything on you?
I can go get it upstairs.
All right.
Like that escalated
really quick.
extremely quick.
Can you go ahead and turn around for me really quick? I'm just gonna detain you and put you in handcuffs, okay?
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. Yes, ma'am.
Why?
Turn around, please.
Why? Is this a joke?
No, it's not a joke.
What is happening?
Like I said, I'm detaining you right now. You're not under arrest, but I'm just detaining you.
Okay. That's very interesting.
Okay.
My feet are burning on this ground. Can you?
Any statement can be and will be used against you in your court of law. Do you understand your rights, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay. So
What I don't understand is why I'm in handcuffs right now.
because you're detained, I'm by myself, and you came from your house down here because of a noise from the garbage truck, and you pushed this gentleman. Okay. Hold on. That's what you just told me. So I'm by myself. Hold on. I'm by myself. So I'm detaining you because I'm by myself. Okay. We got to cause a but.
He's the one who punched me in the face. This doesn't make any sense.
All right.
Wait a minute. So he said, obviously he's not by himself. We're watching him on another officer's body cam. Okay, so I'm confused now. I understand if he really was by himself, needing to detain her if she was being irrational or something, but I don't understand why she's being detained right now. Maybe you guys can enlighten me in the comments, because he's clearly not by himself. He keeps saying, I'm by myself, I'm going to detain you, but he's clearly not. I see another police officer right there. We're watching them on a third police officer's body cam. I'm so confused. And she doesn't seem to be acting super erratic. I mean, obviously there was an incident that was physical. She admitted to it, but I don't understand why she's in handcuffs already. I don't know. Let's continue.
I asked you if you were hurt and did you need medics. I don't see any injuries on you, but from what you just told me, okay, you went and entered his car, his work vehicle.
I just
you
shut
turned
the
it
thing
off.
off.
Okay, can you shut the car off from the outside, ma'am?
I was standing on the thing and I pulled. Now I can't do anything, but I just shut it off. I didn't get in the vehicle. I just stepped on the thing and he grabbed me and pulled me down.
Okay,
and
I'll
so
be
I
right
pushed
back.
him
Okay,
off of me.
I'll be right back.
While the officer went to talk to the driver, the other continued the conversation with the woman.
This guy pulled me down off of the truck.
Because you got in his truck.
I didn't get in it. All I did was shut the one thing off.
You're just not going to accept the consequences of your actions, huh?
Is he gonna have any consequences?
He's protected.
So is she literally in handcuffs because she went into this guy's vehicle? I mean, I guess I can understand that. I mean, obviously she broke a law, she broke a rule, she invaded somebody's personal property or a business's property without being properly invited. I just don't understand the handcuffs. Obviously they're erring on the side of caution here, but I've seen other body cams where people are clearly irate and they're still not put in handcuffs. She seems fairly calm for this entire handcuff situation. I understand why she's detained though. I just don't quite understand the handcuffs.
It's his property. Okay, well, he's finding that out. I just don't see what did you think was going to happen.
All I know is I had to shut off the truck and I have to go back in my house and get on my
What gives you that right? What gives you that right? I'm just curious what you think gives you the right.
I'm not an entitled person.
It sounds like it.
She says, I'm not an entitled person. Baby, you are the definition of entitled. She's just not aggressively entitled. She just came out making some demands. She's got an important phone call to make. You need to keep your truck quiet. Like, yes, you are acting entitled. It is not this truck driver's responsibility to make sure that you have peace and quiet for your rando phone call. Come on now. Come on. Come on.
It sounds a little bit like it.
Wow.
For you to reach into someone's truck, that's asinine, in my opinion. It's a crime.
I didn't even get in the truck. I didn't vandalize it. I shut it off.
Trespassing, at least.
I live here.
You reached in his truck.
I didn't get in it.
You reached in it.
So?
Okay. And I really like that there's like this little caption here. By entering the cab or reaching into the truck, she established the legal elements for trespassing. So that's why she is detained and she is the one that's getting arrested because, yeah, she trespassed in someone else's property. It was unwarranted and uninvited. That made it trespass. Okay. But I still don't understand the handcuffs. Maybe this is just because I've seen so many instances where people are acting so much more aggressively and it takes the officers forever to put them in handcuffs. And
so what do you guys think on this one? She had a right to turn her car off. I wouldn't call the cops on it. All she did was turn the car off. No harm on that.
she was just handcuffed instantaneously. Maybe that's why. Maybe she was docile. And so they're like, let's go ahead and put her in handcuffs while we can. Because once we tell her she's arrested, she might get combative. Not entitled. That's just, I agree with this police officer. That is asinine.
Trespassing.
No.
Okay, we'll find out.
I grabbed her.
Okay.
Pulled her down so you can put business stuff it on.
Okay.
And she had her stuff in the mouth and so you just punch me.
Okay.
Really, lady?
At any point did you hit her? Okay. So let me ask you this. Did she put any hands on you or did she touch you at all?
She pushed me.
She pushed you? How did she push you? In the chest?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you hurt at all?
No.
Okay.
After getting the driver's side of the story, the officer decided to place the woman under arrest.
All right, so ma'am, you're going to be placed under arrest today for simple battery.
Are you kidding me?
No, ma'am.
He punched me in the face, and I'm the one that's going to jail. I've got my 2 dogs upstairs. I have to pee. I have to call work. This is insane to me right now, and nothing's happened. He's a grown man who punched a woman in the face.
Like I told you earlier, I still don't understand hold on a second. I don't understand why you think you have the right to go into someone else's property.
I didn't go into it. I just shut it off one notch to shut the noise
You're
off.
lucky. I'll be honest with you. You're lucky you're not going to jail for stealing a vehicle. Because technically,
Joking me?
No.
That is so extra.
Well, so listen. So.
That is so extra, she says. Honey, you're extra.
So I know it's a lot going on, but I need you to calm down.
Dogs upstairs like that.
Okay,
No, I
so
cannot calm down. He punched me in the face.
Hold on. First of all, listen.
So what do they say about that, Kay? If she got punched in the face, how come she's right? How come she going to jail? This don't make no sense. A minor issue.
I'm telling you right now where we're at, but I'm saying if you need to make arrangements and stuff, we can help you with that. But I'm just telling you right now, if that was a police car and we had sirens on there, would you come down there and do the same thing you did to that car?
I'm not a police car. I'm not an idiot.
Okay. Well, I'm just letting you know, when you trespassed inside the work vehicle.
Go in it. My arm was in it at the most.
Okay.
I was still on this bottom rung.
Okay. Well, I'm just telling you right now, based on
Are
what
you laughing with him? He punched me in the face.
I'm sorry. Excuse me.
He punched me in the face, and you're over there laughing with him. And
You don't know what I
nothing's
was
gonna
doing.
happen?
I'm sorry. Where are your shoes?
Well, they're upstairs. I live here.
Okay.
Yes, nobody does.
Okay.
You have a neighbor or somebody that can take care of the dogs?
I could put one in the crate, but this is just crazy. He punched me in the face.
You're missing everything before that.
You're missing the punch in the face. I've never been punched in the face in my life.
Wait. The very first crime that was committed was you entering his
I
truck.
didn't enter his truck. My arm went in the truck and I shut the notch off. One thing, I was coming out of the truck. I never went in. to turn off a vehicle?
She's so dense. She is not understanding. It doesn't matter if you sat in the vehicle, drove it away, or stuck your arm inside. You entered the vehicle. There's no way that she could have turned it off without entering the vehicle, regardless of whether or not her brain is processing a different definition. She went into his property. Come on.
Is he good?
Handcuffs and arrested because I shut off someone's vehicle?
No, I don't need anything else from him.
There's a case number.
I gave him a case. They
Piece
give him
of
a
shit.
You got
Watch your
truck
mouth.
information, the tag on the truck?
No, I didn't get that.
These have license plates on them?
Up front.
Up front? All right, let me just get that real quick. Yeah, what's up?
I gotta go finish tying this down.
Okay.
But when I do that, I'm gonna make a lot of noise. That's what I can figure out.
That's too bad. You can do your job.
Thanks.
You're fine.
Let me get a victim's right pamphlet so I can go ahead and give you home, have him sign it, and yeah, you're back.
Wait, he's the victim?
Yeah.
Are you guys serious? This is like a nightmare right now.
Listen.
He punched me in the face. I don't understand what you guys don't understand about that. I called the cops on him.
I know, but there is no logical reason for you to leave your residence and do what you did today. That's what happened, and that's why we're in this situation.
Logical, because I couldn't stand the noise and I had to get on a phone call at 2:30. Like, if you don't like repetitive noises either, then maybe you understand how I was up there just listening and listening and listening, going, oh my God, it's giving me anxiety.
So it got to the point where he has to pull you out of the car, and then you're alleging that he punches you, hit you, and then you push him.
When he pulled me off of the stairs, like he was holding on to me. He didn't like just like pull me. He was grabbing my arm and didn't let go. Pulled me down, and he had his hand still on me. And I go, get off of me, and I pushed him in the chest. And that's when he punched me in the face. And I wasn't even in the vehicle. I turned the key. That was it. It's like the smallest thing that
How can you
do.
turn the key without getting in the vehicle is what I'm asking.
Because there's 2 stairs on there, and I just reached my hand in. I didn't have to.
That
get
means you went in the
there.
vehicle.
My hand did, yeah, absolutely. But I didn't get in the vehicle to vandalize it. I wasn't in there looking like I was going to drive it.
And that's what trespassing is. It's not that you went in there to take something or commit another crime, but you weren't supposed to be in there. You had no permission to be in that vehicle. That's trespassing in a vehicle. You see what I'm saying?
I see.
Well, and then here's the thing too, but does that give him the right to hit her? Now, there's no evidence that he's hit her. You can't see anything visually. There's no witnesses to the fact, but she keeps saying, he hit me. He hit me. He grabbed my arm. He punched me in the face. So should there not be some sort of consequence for this guy for hitting her? Just because she reaches her car inside, does that mean that he needs to get that level of physical? Like, I understand pushing her and telling her, like, get out, but to punch her? Like, if he really did, shouldn't he have some sort of consequence too? That is, if it actually happened. There's no witnesses to deny or confirm.
What you're saying, but I just don't see it that way. And I think it's really, and you can shake your head and that's
Florida
fine.
state statute says it. I mean, there's no, you don't have to see it that way, but that's how it is. And you don't seem to understand it, but we're telling you how it is, and that's what it is.
I just think it's really dramatic.
Take it up with the governor. Then I don't know what to tell you. It's Florida state statute. You're not going to change it. Your opinion's not going to change it.
Detain me and
Absolutely,
arrest me
it's our
for
job.
him punching me in the face.
It's our job to enforce the law. Literally our job.
I didn't get in the vehicle.
You just said you did.
I put my arm in the vehicle to shut the thing off. That's all.
To be quite honest with you, what you committed, it's a theft of a vehicle. You deprived him.
Theft?
Hold on a second.
No, I
Hold
don't
on a
want to
second.
hear
You deprived him of his truck. It's a grand theft. In my
being a real jerk.
No, I'm not. I'm just holding you accountable to your actions.
No, you're
I'm
being a
holding you
jerk.
accountable to your
You're
actions.
saying I thefted a car.
Yes.
Do you hear yourself?
Technically, yeah.
Do you hear
I
yourself?
know. I know.
Wow.
I know. I've been doing
Please
this job
don't
a long
talk
time.
to me. Please
Oh,
don't
I'm
even
glad
talk
we're
to
not
me.
talking.
Now,
No big deal to me.
Listen,
at
I
this point-
respect the cops. I do,
No,
but
at
that's
this
ridiculous.
point, is there any possible way that we can at least put this to the side for a quick second, just to like see maybe you can get somebody to watch the dogs? Like, I know that you're concerned about them, and I don't want to see them like thirsty or hungry. Do you have somebody that you want? Maybe we can give a call or something like that too.
Yeah. Can you guys come upstairs with me?
After going upstairs, she'd be transported to the Palm Beach Gardens PD for processing.
So at the end of the day, this entire situation comes down to one thing. She thought that she was trying to solve a problem, and she ended up creating a much bigger one. Because whether or not you agree with it, she reached into the truck. She even admitted to it. And in that moment, everything shifted. And from there, it was just one bad decision after another. Do you think that she was treated fairly, or do you
What do you think on that one, Flying Eagle? How long will she spend time in jail? But that's not fair, I think. I think she got treated the wrong way, I think. My opinion. Is that a serious crime or what? You think she'll just get 24 hours? So it's not no major.
Place, secret societies, mystery religions, and
That's music. God damn it. Hang on a second. I'm going to do the X2 report.
from the comfort of their own home.
Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name's Dave, and this episode 3883 AM. Today's date is April 14th, 2026, and the title of the episode is Stable Coins, Gold, Energy, Tariffs. Trump is changing the entire economic landscape. Now, we all know Wall Street doesn't lose money on sell-offs. You do. They create the panic, wait for you to dump your position out of fear and scoop it up at a discount. The big banks aren't selling their gold, they're buying yours. Every time the headlines scream, regular people sell, every time regular people sell, the institutions are right there, waiting with open hands. You built portfolio insurance for a reason. Don't let a red day hand it over to the people who cause it. That's why I tell people to talk to Noble Gold Investments. They will help you build a long-term plan and, more importantly, help you stick to it when the noise gets loud. The minors up and downs, that's weather. The long-term trend, that's climate. And the climate has been favoring gold for 5,000 years. So the next time you see a dip and you feel that knot in your stomach, ask yourself one question. Am I making this decision, or is Wall Street making it for me? Don't let them shake you out of the position you built to protect yourself. That's exactly what they want. And right now, all new qualified accounts receive a 10th-ounce American Gold Eagle as a thank you. Real gold in your hands, that's the whole point. Go to x22gold.com. That is x22gold.com, or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum. You can see that Trump, at this point in time, he's putting all the pieces together to change the entire economic landscape. Because once again, he's creating a new economic system, a system that is going to be outside of the central bank system. And very soon, what Trump is going to do, he's going to start to restructure the old system. And the old system includes the Federal Reserve System. This is why he's putting together stable coins. This is why he talked about auditing the gold reserves. This is why he's created the tariff system. This is why he's created the energy sales system. This is why he's went and freed Venezuela. This is why he's in the Middle East. This is why he has the Abraham Accords. This is why he made the deal with Indonesia. He's doing all this because he's putting all the pieces together to go up against the most powerful entity that we know today. No, it's not armies. It is the central bank system. That is what he's fighting. And yes, through the central bank system, we have the deep state players. They get their funding from the central bank system. They get their instructions from the central bank system. And Trump now is setting everything up to combat this system and to basically restructure it in the end. And you could see every step of the way, the deep state players, they're going to try to stop him because they know exactly what he's doing. Now, if you look at it, you can see Europe is heading in what direction? They're heading in the direction of the Green New Scam. They're heading in the direction of the agenda that they set out, what the deep state players, the central bank set out for them. They're going to continue to do this, which means their economies are going to get worse every single day. Meanwhile, while Trump changes the landscape here in the United States, you're going to see the economy get better and better and better. I mean, a very good example of all of this is all you got to do is look within the states, and you see those states, those blue states that are following the deep state, the central bank agenda. You look at New York, you look at California, you look at Oregon, you look at Washington, you look at these states, and you can see that they're completely imploding. Now you can add Virginia into this, and yes, there's many other states, but you could see that every time they try to implement something and they follow the deep state plan, the agenda, the economies in those states completely and utterly fall apart, and they force what? The people out of their states into those states where there are jobs. Inflation is low. Fuel prices are low. Because again, the red states are doing the opposite of the blue states. The United States is moving in the direction of using oil, gas, nuclear, coal-fired plants, fusion technology, moving away from solar, wind, and everything else. And if you look at Europe, if you look at the UK, you look at France, you look at Germany, you look at all these different nations, Australia, New Zealand, they're all following in that path. They're following the path of the Green New Scam. And what's going to happen is their systems are going to start to implode. And this is why the IMF is coming out with their warnings, because they're letting you know that the system is falling apart from under them. And remember, if they don't have the support of the United States, it's game over for them. I mean, all you got to do is look at Canada. Why do you think there are so many people moving from Canada to the United States? Peter St. PhD, put this out and said, nearly half of the most productive Canadians have fled to America, while third world migrants make up 90% of Canada's own population growth. Population replacement at warp speed. Why would they leave Canada? If Canada is so great, why would they flee? Because once again, it's just like the blue states. It's just like what's going on in Europe. They're destroying their own system. And yes, are they following DEI? Are they following the Green New Scam? Are they continually enslaving the people? Absolutely. And when you look at, let's say, DEI, for example, you could see that DEI practices, they reduce productivity. Now, think about it. They were really pushing that here in the United States. Yes, in other places too. Because what they were trying to do is they were trying to divide the people. They were trying to bring the worst of the worst into certain positions. Once you have the worst people in those positions that really don't have the skills, what's going to happen? Productivity is going to fall. That's exactly what we've seen. And there was a report that was ordered by the Trump administration, and it actually shows that, yes, productivity completely implodes when you use DEI. The costs lead the companies practicing DEI to hire fewer people and pay their workers less. DEI policy actively encourage employment discrimination, according to the report, which cited fourfold growth in the percentage of minorities holding management positions between 2016 and 2023. During the same period, industries that adopted DEI protocols were 2.7% less productive than industries that avoided the cultural shift. And Trump has ended this right now. You have to ask yourself a simple question. Why would they do this? Because again, if you're pushing the United States and all the other countries into third world nations, and you're shifting the production, manufacturing, and everything else out of the countries, and the countries were going to depend on wind and solar, they weren't going to produce anything anyhow. Everything was going to be shifted to China. So this is why they didn't care. This is why they put this in place. And you can see at this point in time, those countries that are still following these practices, they're in trouble. Remember, Europe, for example, they shifted their energy sources. They got rid of them. They went wind, solar. They were buying oil from other places. They removed their nuclear power plants, the coal-fired power plants, all of it. And now they're having an energy problem. This is why manufacturers are moving out of their countries. Trump, he put this out and said Europe is desperate for energy, and yet the United Kingdom refuses to open North Sea oil, one of the greatest fields in the world. Tragic. Aberdeen should be booming. Norway sells its North Sea oil to the UK at double the price. They're making a fortune. UK, which is better situated on the North Sea for purposes of energy than Norway, should drill, baby, drill. It's absolutely crazy that they don't. And no more windmills, President DJT. Now, if you notice, Trump continually warns the European nations, stop doing.
There's one simple method anyone can do that relieves 90% of back pain in weeks. Once banned back in 1960.
Chico! Dang it. I lost where I was at now.
By the FDA.
Doing what you're doing. It's going to be a complete and utter disaster for them.
We got.
Now, we all know Wall Street doesn't lose money on sell-offs. You do. They create the panic, wait for you to dump your position out of fear and scoop it up at a discount. The big banks aren't selling their gold. They're buying yours. Every time the headlines scream, regular people sell, every time regular people sell, the institutions are right there, waiting with open hands. You built portfolio insurance for a reason. Don't let a red day hand it over to the people who cause it. That's why I tell people to talk to Noble Gold Investments. They will help you build a long-term plan and, more importantly, help you stick to it when the noise gets loud. The minors' up and downs, that's weather. The long-term trend, that's climate. And the climate has been favoring gold for 5,000 years. So the next time you see a dip and you feel that knot in your stomach, ask yourself one question. Am I making this decision, or is Wall Street making it for me? Don't let them shake you out of the position you built to protect yourself. That's exactly what they want. And right now, all new qualified accounts receive a 10th ounce American Gold Eagle as a thank you. Real gold in your hands. That's the whole point. Go to x22gold.com. That is x22gold.com, or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions.
But you have to remember, those installed puppets that are running the country, they're taking their instructions from the deep state, the central bankers, and they're telling them to do this. But every step of the way, what is Trump doing? He's not doing what they're doing. He's doing the opposite. And think about what Trump has done right now with the choke points. He's now controlling them. He's making sure we control the flow of energy. Observing Consciousness put this out and said, look at the map again. Not as routes, but as pressure points. Hormuz, the Strait of Malacca, Suez, Panama, the Bosphorus, the English Channel, every major artery of the global trade sitting in plain view. Now feel the shift. When those points begin to align, flow stops being random and starts becoming directed. What you're watching is a template forming where the busiest lanes on Earth move inside one coordinated system, shaping the rhythm of global trade in real time. Absolutely. And when you have control of the choke points, when you have control of the flow of vessels, you have the control of the flow of energy, you control it all. And this is what Trump is doing right now. He's making sure that everything is put into place to shift us away of what the central bank, the deep state players were planning. So yes, is he shifting everything away from China? Yes, because they were planning to bring everything into China. So now he's shifting it away. Now they don't get the cheap oil for manufacturing. This is a major, major problem for China because, again, the companies, the manufacturers were there because energy was very cheap. You paid people pennies on the dollar. Now that we have an even playing field and Trump has now implemented tariffs on these companies, do you think they will stay in China? Absolutely not. they will eventually move out. Because what's going to happen? Energy is going to become very cheap here in the United States. Remember, we produce oil. China does not. China has to get their oil from all different places. The United States can drill, baby, drill, and we can bring down the prices dramatically. Plus, there's no tariffs. Plus, Trump is removing the regulations. Plus, Trump is removing taxes. So he's making it very, very easy for companies to make the shift, to make the move. And I do believe eventually that's going to happen. And think about it. All the doomsayers who are saying, oh, look what Trump is doing in the Middle East. This is a disaster. Oil prices are going to stay high. Inflation's going to skyrocket. It's going to be a disaster for years upon years upon years. Well, it's not as bad as everyone thinks it is. Actually, it was a lot worse under Biden. But did you hear the fake news talking about this? Did you hear the financial pundits talking about this? Did you hear the Federal Reserve talking about this? Absolutely not. Amuse put this out and said, despite the Iranian conflict, March 2026, U.S. PPI rose 0.5% month over month, well below the 1.1% consensus forecast, a huge relief for inflation monitors, including the Federal Reserve. So there you have it. So what is Trump doing right now? He's building a cohesive American first economic system that integrates energy dominance, protectionist tariffs, crypto modernization, Genius Plus Clarity Act, capital attracting immigration, gold card, and forced reshoring, designed to supercharge U.S. manufacturing, sustain dollar hegemony, and make the real economy less reliant on Fed monetary policy. It echoes historic presidents who prioritized industrial nationalism and sound money levers over central bank dependence. Andrew Jackson's war on the second bank and William McKinley's tariff-driven manufacturing boom, plus gold standard stability. So what has Trump done so far? Well, record U.S. production, SLOC leverage, Venezuela secured, removes pressure on Iran, and export push, LNG oil, coal deals with allies like Japan. This creates a U.S.-centric pricing and flow mechanisms, oil sold in U.S. dollar terms, while denying cheap, reliable energy across to adversaries like China via choke points and tariffs. It buffers domestic inflation and funds growth without heavy Fed intervention. Sweeping tariffs, Section 301, Section 232, and energy policy explicitly aimed to raise costs for Chinese manufacturing, forcing supply chain relocation to the U.S. or allies. Steel, what we've seen so far, steel revival, pledges of trillions in reshoring, foreign investment, and some factory announcements, though China adapts via third country routing, which Trump is now shutting down. The Genius Act and the Clarity Act. And by the way, the Genius Act is already signed. The Clarity Act, yes, it's paused in the Senate, but I do believe that will move through very, very soon. So the Genius creates the first federal USD stablecoin framework, one-to-one treasury cash reserves, disclosures, anti-money laundering rules, a digital petrodollar extension that boosts dollar demand globally. Clarity adds market structure clarity. SEC, CFTC jurisdiction split for digital assets, commodities, investor protections, and innovation rules. Trump aggressively backs both as making America the crypto capital, countering banks and foreign central bank digital currencies. So tariffs plus energy leverage plus deregulation have delivered announcements of factory returning, industrial-based pledges, supply chain onshoring, critical minerals, steel, autos. It's a measurable shift toward domestic production. A protected energy-rich industrial base plus a digital dollar, rails, and foreign capital inflows equals higher productivity, tax revenue, and U.S. dollar demand. So when you look at this entire playbook blends two different presidents, Andrew Jackson and William McKinley. Andrew Jackson, he had a bank war. Populist assault on the unelected second bank of the U.S. as elite controlled. Jackson vetoed, rechartered, withdrew deposits, and decentralized finance, leaving America without a central bank until 1913. And remember, Andrew Jackson got rid of the second one, and look what happened. The third one said, you know what? Let's come back in and let's create another one. And that's exactly what they did. So Trump, his narrative right now mirrors this. Both used energy resources, Jackson land, Trump oil and crypto as alternative power bases. William McKinley, high protective tariffs to shield and grow U.S. manufacturing, paired with gold standard commitment for stable, sound currency. Trump's tariffs plus energy dominance plus dollar stablecoin framework echo this industrial protectionist, pro-manufacturing vision, prioritizing factories and American power over free trade finance. McKinley era saw massive industrial resurgence. Trump cites similar goals. So Trump is engineering a 21st century Jackson-McKinley hybrid, real economy nationalism plus digital sound money extensions to restore U.S. industrial primacy and reduce vulnerability to monetary policy whims or global de-dollarization. By doing all this, the Fed becomes less central in all of this. Once we have manufacturing, once we have energy exports, once we have crypto, we have gold, we have all of this, what we're going to see is that this architecture is going to create a new operating system for America. It's going to be a completely different system. But think about it. Trump hasn't even mentioned gold yet. Yes, in the very beginning when Elon...
Try this strange 10-second sugar hack to reverse high blood sugar practically overnight. It works so well.
...was helping Doge, he did mention, hey, should we check to see if there's gold in Fort Knox? Should we audit Fort Knox? Trump said, yeah, let's do it. Let's audit Fort Knox. Now, the question is, why didn't they want to do it just yet? I do believe that is timing. You don't want to mention gold. You don't want to tip off what you're planning to do. You don't want the central bank to understand what you're doing. Because remember, the battle that we're seeing right now is going to be a very tough battle with the central bank system. And yes, it's going to be a fight to the very, very end. And I do believe that Trump is using this card for the very last moment. Because again, once gold reaches a certain height in value, that's when Trump can say, let's go take a look and see if we have anything. And I wouldn't be surprised if we have a lot more than we think we do. I wonder if it was replaced somehow, some way. Maybe not in Fort Knox, but maybe in other locations. And if there is a lot more than we think, and Trump decides, you know what, instead of $42 an ounce, let's revalue the gold. What is it today? 10,000, 12,000, whatever the number is. All of a sudden, he's going to have a lot of leverage. So start to put it all together. Think about what Trump is doing every step of the way. He's now creating the new system right in front of your eyes. Actually, Kissinger did this back in the 60s, going into the 70s. He created a new system. Nobody even knew what was going on. No one knew that he was creating a petrodollar system to take us off the gold standard. Trump now is doing the same thing, but he's doing it to benefit the people. He's doing it to remove us from the old system. He's doing it so we're not dependent on the central bank system. That is what this is all about. This is where the economy is heading. He's creating an entire new economic landscape. And you can see now all the pieces are coming together. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.
Okay, the X2 report from yesterday. I got 3 crisp videos, 3 mini videos.
Can't survive.
They are all running as fast as they from this guy, right? And do you know who's running from Eric Swalwell right now? The guy who was his backer, like the guy who was giving him all his money for his campaigns, the guy who thought he was creating the next California governor, a guy named Stephen Klubeck, who said not only is he running from Eric, he's running from the entire Democrat Party. He's becoming a libertarian. Yeah, watch this one. This is entertaining in and of itself.
Blown away. A political explosion. Like blown away. Billionaire Stephen Klubeck, once a major donor and supporter of Eric Swalwell, now publicly turning on him with rage. Mad amid sexual assault allegations.
I am no longer a Democrat. I'm now a libertarian Republican. Because that's what a blue dog Democrat used to be.
A lot has been said about me today through anonymous allegations.
Swalwell posting this video Friday from Klubeck's Beverly Hills mansion, pushing back.
These allegations of sexual assault are flat false.
But since then, the fallout has only intensified. The Democratic frontrunner for California governor dropping out of the race, resigning from Congress, and being kicked out of Klubeck's home.
And I said, pal, You busted the trust. I'm disappointed and disgusted. Get the out of here.
You know how I could tell he was such a bad guy? Because he'd say anything. He'd go on cable news and he'd say anything to just get at Trump. And it didn't matter what it was. And I think that just always struck me as a total lack of character, combined with sort of his, well, I keep going back to Fang Fang, but I'm sorry, you had me at that, right? So he had this relationship, although he's never actually quite come out and said that, but I think we all know. We can call a spade, okay? We're all adults here. So he had this, he was having quite a time with Ms. Fang Fang. And it turned out that Ms. Fang Fang was a Chinese spy. And now the FBI has like a file this thick on him. And they were actually going to come forward with this whole file. Because you ought to know, right? If this guy's compromised, and clearly he's compromised. I mean, we're talking compromised city. All these women, the Chinese spy, maybe there's some Russian spies in there too. I mean, hey, and the women that were working for him, I mean, completely unfair. And they were not on the payroll, right? Those were not the spies. You have women that were allegedly assaulted by him, brutally assaulted by him. And then you've got the people that might have been working for China. So it's bad. And I think that you can't have people in office like that. We just have to hold people to a higher standard. And the fact that he came out and said all the things that he did always struck me as insanely disingenuous and kind of rotten. Like there's just something rotten about the guy. I never liked him. Now even more staffers are coming forward. CBS News sitting down with a group of women saying that now's the time, and they're not going to give up. They don't care that he's no longer got a political career. They're out for vengeance.
The fact that he has now dropped out of the governor's race and resigned from Congress, is that justice in your view?
No, it's just the beginning. It's just the very beginning. And I know personally that we're not walking away from this fight.
For me, justice won't be until he can't ever harm a woman ever again. And he has faced the consequences for the women that he has harmed.
I think in regards to the governor's race, he never should have ran for governor to begin with, knowing the kind of history and receipts that are out there. So that's a non-starter. And then in terms of Congress, I think he absolutely should have resigned. I think we just prevented another 30 to 40 years potentially of him harming people if he were to stay in Congress.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
in that sense,
Well, but you heard them say they're not finished. In other words, this is what gets us back to what Anna Paulina Luna was talking about earlier with the jail time. Because he very well could find himself put away for a lot of years. And you gotta think about the ego on these people, right? If you had all of those skeletons in your closet, why would you be running for California governor? I mean, why would you even be in Congress? And if you knew you were going to be a politician like that, wouldn't you live kind of, I don't know, like a priestly life of some sort? Like, you're married with kids and that's that? What do they think they're going to get away with between the cell phones and the communication style these days and a media that's right? Oh, well, maybe it's because he figured he could get away with it because the media was on his side.
Yeah, right.
And that's what has to change.
That was an important one, huh, you guys? So I got a couple from her, 3 of Benny, but then I got 2, 3 other ones I want to play. I just found 5 minutes on the next one. Wait. We'll play that after this one. Guess who?
And it is showing something very different. It is now reflecting the USA Treasury Reserve and refund per taxpayer over $80,000. And as you can see, it is counting up in real time. And if you hover over, let's just say the USA Treasury Reserves, it'll actually give you a description of what it actually means. This is information that is running in real time, and they're pulling the information from the USA Treasury. So let me break it down for you super simple of what it means. The USA Treasury Reserve is basically saying, if you add up all the real stuff that America owns, let's just say like land, gold, buildings, and resources, we're going to get that figure. That is the total value. Think of it like a gigantic piggy bank for the country. And if you hover over refund per taxpayer, you'll get the forfeited asset proceeds from the criminal money laundering and racketeering activities of the Federal Reserve banking syndicate. Over $83,000. That is wild. Refunds per taxpayer means if we were to split up that value, that is how much each taxpayer would get. Now, that doesn't mean that they're just going to be sending out checks tomorrow. This right here is a calculation. It is a reflection, a model, but what it does show in real time behind all of that debt is that there is actual value. And then it gets crazier. Income tax crossed out, corporate taxes crossed out, counting in real time a DeFi bankless future and a income tax-free future. Then it shows all of this hidden wealth, right? All of this gold, land, real estate, energy, all totaling up over $200 trillion in assets that are being tracked. Right now, the system runs on debt. Money is created and you pay it back with interest. What it is showing is a mirror, a reflection, a system backed by real stuff, not debt, but ownership. On one side, you got the current system with high interest, taxes, debt, and it stays forever. On the other side, we have low interest, no income, and ownership by we, the people. Then it starts hinting at something even bigger. A shift away from the Federal Reserve System over and back to the U.S. Treasury. A new USA Treasury dollar, a dollar that is not backed by debt. It is actually backed by real world assets. Transparent, verifiable, and tied to actual value. Now, here's the part that many people are missing because they think it's going to be going through the big banks when that's not going to be the case at all. It's actually going to be going through the credit unions. Think of credit unions like small community banks that is owned by you, not big, gigantic for-profit corporations. So instead of the profits going to a big bank establishment that has shareholders, it's actually going to go back to we, the people. So what you're seeing on the usdebtclock.org is like a blueprint, a shift from debt to assets, control to ownership, banks to the people. And this kind of system can only work with a new infrastructure, a compliant and regulated blockchain system that connects the banks and the credit unions. Put it in the comments if you know what blockchain system I'm talking about. Now, if you want to see the blueprints for yourself, make sure you go over to the usdebtclock.org, click on the secret window tab, and download the free book, The New Money Revolution. After you have read it, then come back and tell me, do you believe that this is real or are they trying to tell us something even deeper? But this is why it is so important to know what you hold.
Okay, I'm glad I found that one. Okay, about 10 minutes, and I got a Nick Shirley video.
Hyper prepared individuals. There were drones and planes and these trucks that could drive through gates that they were able to blast through, and no one got hurt. And they stunned these folks in pre-dawn hours, and they were one of 7 hospice owners that were shut down yesterday. To put that in perspective, in the prior 4 years, the governor of California had shut down 4 hospices. We shut down 7 in one night. And I'll get news for you today, Brett. Let's announce, make it clear, everybody, we've shut down already, just in the last 10 weeks, 221 hospices in California.
So wait, in the state of California, 220?
Yeah, in Los Angeles, not even the state, in Los Angeles. So we're able to dramatically accelerate a process that had been meandering along in California. And we believe that there are 1,800 hospices in California. That's, by the way, about a third of the entire nation's hospice load is just in Los Angeles. We're going to be able to shut down, we hope, appropriately, half of them.
We saw what happened in Minnesota. Now we're seeing the tip of the iceberg in California. Every time we see a fraud bust like this, it's framed as kind of bad actors, and that it's happening on such a large scale because the system allows for it. What incentives inside Medicare and Medicaid are actually enabling this kind of systemic issue? It's obviously been going on for years, right?
Well, part of it is that government had been fragmented in its approach. So yesterday, the U.S. Attorney, Billy Asaili, led the charge. You got the Office of Inspector General, the Department of Justice. You got everyone working together. We're bringing in Scott Bessent in Treasury because guess what? Bank fraud's a big part of this. And we've also got a problem that's even larger, I think, in that we had told people in the federal government for the last 4 years under the Biden administration, don't do your job. Literally, we told people who were in charge of fraud that they should just sort of calm down. We don't want to have a big problem with this. This is not a legitimate issue. Just enroll people. We kept score in Medicare and Medicaid by looking at how many people were in the program, as opposed to were the right people in the program. Let's extend that now to autism. So what happened in Minnesota is they would pay moms to dishonestly say their children had autism. Brett, if you have a child in a neighborhood that's autistic and needs support, it's expensive and it's worth the investment. We should do it. It's the right thing. But if every child in the neighborhood is autistic, then no one really is getting those services. So you take scarce resources and funding and you now stretch it out. But here's the biggest message I can deliver tonight. This is critical. If these corrupt fraudsters are willing to steal your money, they will steal your health. They'll steal your life. I've seen it firsthand. Hospice owners who are willing to throw away the benefits that these older folks should have, and they die because they don't realize they've been tricked into signing up on hospice they never wanted. We have the same thing happen with durable medical equipment. Brett, we're right now in the epicenter of this. Durable medical equipment suppliers in South Florida outnumber the number of McDonald's by 2-fold. There's twice as many people selling wheelchairs and canes and braces in South Florida than there are McDonald's. How is that possible?
All right, so do you have enough people? Does this task force have enough stuff? Are you going to be able to get after this to the point where the American people can go, okay, this is moving the needle, this is making a difference?
Yes, because the president and the vice president and the task force says yes. So I spent yesterday, when we weren't doing the bust, talking to collaborators and talking about how we're going to be able to recruit the right people back into government, because we need people. And by the way, please, I came on the show in part to recruit folks. This is a generational opportunity to serve your nation. If you're interested in this space of fraud, come on, give us a call. We want to hear your tips. I found out that of the referrals we're getting in my agency from the Office of Inspector General, these are like detectives finding fraud, we were only acting on about a third. Well, if you only act on a third of what detectives are telling you is fraud, you're throwing away a lot of intel, but also the detectives stop referring cases. They don't think you're serious. I told my team I want 100% of their referrals acted on, and I want to hear about it if we don't do this. And that's what everyone across government is doing, because the vice president has made it really clear. He doesn't want the gaming anymore. He doesn't want one arm of government holding back another arm. We are laser focused on dealing with the crisis the American public is furious about.
Can AI and data processing help you with the fraud detection real time to be able to deal with it on the front end?
You're so smart. Come work with us. You got it. What you just said is profoundly important. One of the beauties of AI is that we could use it to catch fraud earlier and more accurately, but we could also use it to defend ourselves, because guess who's using AI? The fraudsters. They're corrupting the system with sophisticated tools to hide their ill-gotten gains from us. So by us using technology, AI in particular, we're going to copy what's already happening in banking. You don't think bank managers are good at fraud. If they were, they wouldn't be bank managers. AI is being used to help them think like a fraudster. We're doing the same thing for the first time. We've stopped billions of dollars from leaving the door of CMS. The goal for us is the money never leaves the building. And AI has helped us do that. Again, billions of dollars already, because we can identify fraud as soon as the fraudsters start corrupting the system.
And in the big picture, in the background is insolvency of Medicare, which is now what, 2032?
2032 is when we predict the Medicare Trust Fund to go bankrupt. We can double that life expectancy. Medicaid, a program that I love and adore. The president says he loves and cherishes these programs. Let me be crystal clear. If we don't protect these programs from fraud, they will be destroyed by the corrupt system. And we don't want our most vulnerable citizens, folks who've had trouble, as Hubert Humphrey said, and it adorns the entryway to our building. We want people at the dawn of their life, at the twilight of their life, the young and the old, and those living in the shadows to be protected. If we don't take care of these beautiful programs, the crown jewels of our social safety net program, they will implode under the weight of the corruption that's now being pushed on them.
All right, you mentioned the president, his approval, overall, 43%. Disapprove 57. On healthcare, it's 38%, 61% disapprove. A lot of Republicans looking at these numbers going, the midterms right around the corner. Do you look at approval? Are you looking at how the public is perceiving some of these actions?
The president saved Medicaid. The president came into office with a proposed additional expenditure of $5.4 trillion in Medicaid alone. We were becoming a big healthcare system with a small country attached. So the president said, don't cut Medicaid. In fact, put more money into Medicaid. And we did, $200 billion more over the next decade. But we're not going to pay for legalized money laundering. And what we've been able to do is create a solvent program which will keep Medicaid alive for the rest of my life, allow Medicare's trust fund to last longer as we deal with the trust fund crisis and the fraud. And by doing those brave decisions in the Working Families Tax Cut legislation, we added a lot of other health benefits. For example, for the first time ever, the largest investment in rural health care ever in our country, doubling the amount of money we're putting for Medicaid into these programs that help 60 million Americans who don't live in urban areas. We have done the right thing. So when people hear the stories, they nod their head up and down. They just want to know that we're doing the right thing. We're tightening our belt for the right reasons.
But when you are in an environment with low approval ratings, you're getting ready for an election, you've had Secretary Noem let go of her position, the Attorney General let go of her position. Are people inside the administration looking over their shoulder?
I'm not. Secretary Kennedy's not. And the president calls me all the time with very precise, well-targeted questions. He's an excellent executive, a superb leader. And all I need to know is that when I make a tough decision that I know we'll get some blowback on, but it's the right decision, the president says, go ahead. And you know what he usually says? I don't care what they say. Do what's right for the American people.
Dr. Mehmet Oz, we appreciate the time.
I appreciate you, man.
Thank you for those.
That was a good interview, I thought. Hey, Nick Shirley just came out.
We are strong. We come back. We push forward.
Minnesota is home to one of the largest populations of Somalians, and America accepted thousands of Somali refugees in the 1990s due to the civil war that was taking place. And when they came to the United States, a large portion of them decided to settle in Minnesota for some reason. And now that decades have passed, those refugees have had children, and the Somali population has grown. Inside of this grocery store, it's actually not just like a normal grocery store. So there's actually a bunch of other stores inside of the grocery store. So right here you have one store, right here you have another store, and then right here you have another store. Then up here you have another store. In total, inside of this section of the grocery store, there are 6 separate stores. How's life here as a Somalian?
Life is good. I do phone bills, sending money to Africa. That's where I do. The business is good.
And how have you seen the rise of Somalians and the rise of Islam here inside of Minnesota?
As well, the rise is good, and we have a place to pray, and life is good.
How long have you lived here in America for?
For 10 years now.
And when you came here, did the government bring you here, or did you come here by your own choice?
I came here by my own choice. I was one of the refugees from Uganda. I was brought by UN.
You were brought by the UN to come into the United States?
Yes. And life is good, you know. We try to enter into businesses, we intermingle, and yeah, we do what is required. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much and best of luck. Minnesota fraud scandal continues to get worse and worse as billions of dollars of fraud has been exposed. And as I showed the world the blatant fraud taking place at daycares and other locations across Minnesota, it became the most viewed video expose on the internet and created instant change within the government as the Fed sent thousands of federal agents to Minnesota, and the HHS froze over $185 million in all payments to childcare. And while politicians like Tim Walz call people like me white supremacists and far-right delusional conspiracy theorists for exposing the fraud, meanwhile, he actually dropped out of running for re-election. The Minnesota fraud scandal has erupted the nation as protests and riots took place, all starting because daycares like Quality Learning Center were exposed. However, the daycares is only a small portion of the fraud taking place in Minnesota. Where's the first location we're going to?
The first location is a company called Safari Transportation, Cedar Avenue South in Minneapolis.
And so what makes Safari Transportation Company an interesting transportation company?
Well,
allegedly fraudulent.
Well, the thing about Safari is that they've been registered since 2015 with the state of Minnesota as operating vehicles. And again, the national average for a non-emergency medical transportation company is 20 vehicles. So if they've got 20 vehicles and they're at 607 Cedar Avenue, I have no idea where there's parking them because there is no parking anywhere near this office.
We've arrived to the transportation company. We're outside, and right there we have a Loving Arms adult daycare. All the windows are completely boarded out right there, and there's supposed to be a transportation company registered right here. It's 617, but it's a liquor store. Okay, so the location here is 607 and also 617. These are two transportation companies. We're all on a main road right now, and this is 607, and it is not a transportation company. It's actually a money transfer, but it's registered here, 607. This does not look like Safari Transportation. Where is the transportation company?
I don't see any signs denoting that there's any transportation. It's all just looks like money wiring. But if you look at the Secretary of State's office, state of Minnesota, Safari Transportation, 607 Cedar Avenue, and it's been registered here since 2015. That was the original filing.
So let's see if we have the man.
17.
617 right here.
Transportation.
Sorry about that one, you guys. You just put that one out. We saw that already.
Yoo-hoo, neighbors!
Oh, hi. Should we heat some up?
Well,
Ilhan Omar thought the media was on her side. Ilhan Omar thought that she was totally untouchable. Ilhan Omar said, "Don't you dare come after me. If you come after me, then we just know that you're a racist. I can do all I want. I can go after Donald Trump. I can go after Israel. I can go after Jews. She's making an appearance with that Hassan Piker, who's bad news, guys. Total anti-Semite. She's going on his podcast saying like he's the be-all, end-all. He's the future of the Democrat Party. It's like, what?
the big issue, the big controversy should be his opponent's record.
Yeah.
It should be, what his opponent said. It should be
or their
about
lack of interest in identifying some of these issues.
Yes, but it should be about how they're like in secret chats, right? Capitulating and saying, I don't want to publicly say anything, but after the election, I will do A, B, and C. That should be the problem. The problem shouldn't be the streamer who understands where the base is, who's coming from a place of integrity and honesty and supporting a candidate that really fits that 90-10 issue the exact way that it should. Because if we are to have a representative democracy, the people have to represent the interest of those that they are seeking to govern.
Yeah.
I see. And she believes that Hassan Piker, who has said some really abhorrent stuff, I mean, really bad, is somehow representative of the Democrat Party today. Well, Ilhan, I don't know what kind of Democrat Party you're in. I mean, this is a Democrat Party from Somalia. This is a Democrat Party in your little district out there in Minneapolis where they got a good thing going, or they did, right? Until you got found out. You got found out. And now a lot of people are going to be doing a lot of digging. Here she is going after the president because she didn't like what he was doing with Iran. By the way, huge success. The blockade is working. This is great news for the U.S., great news, frankly, for the world, great news for Europe, although don't tell Europe they have to contribute in any way because they're not interested. In other words, they're like the Ilhans of the world, right? The grifters, for goodness sakes. Ilhan Omar, calling out the president every chance she can get. Fine, all right, that's your prerogative, but don't be a thief. And that's what it's alleged she really is. This is now coming back into focus in a huge ways, guys, huge, because I want to tell you about something I mentioned a couple of months ago. And that was what Joni Ernst had found out. Senator Ernst came forward and said they just squashed a whole bunch of funding, including to programs like Ilhan Omar was advancing for a Somali restaurant owner who wanted to have a mental health clinic right above his kitchen. $1 million that they were going to give this guy. Well, this is making the rounds. It's going totally viral, and everybody's like, whoa, did we dodge a bullet? But not only did we dodge a bullet, we have to make sure that we get to the bottom of this. Because the Feeding Our Future thing was $250 million for a whole bunch of people right there in her district. And now she was, as recently as not too long ago, I mean, after the whole scandal had broken, she was still trying to score an extra $1 million for a Somali restaurant owner who wanted to have a mental health clinic above the kitchen. I mean, come on. You think we're that dumb? Apparently we were. But guess what? We're starting to get smarter every single day. Watch this.
One of our spending bills making its way through Congress was a $1 million earmark from Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota, which was an earmark that was supposedly going to a substance abuse clinic, which actually happened to be housed in a restaurant and run by 3 individuals that share the same residential address, according to their IRS paperwork. Tons of red flags. So this is what we saw with the fraud involving the daycare centers. Now we see other earmarks coming directly from members of Congress where it seems fraud is being perpetrated as well. So I raised the issue, and fortunately, the House has now stripped that earmark out of that spending bill. But again, this is how easy money has been flowing to bad actors in Minnesota.
And she's still trying to get it. I mean, think about that. Why wasn't she doing any due diligence to maybe figure out whether or not the Somali restaurant owner really was running a mental health clinic? Well, maybe she didn't want to know the answer, right? Maybe she didn't want to know the answer because here's the answer, and it's right here in her filings. You see, she's gone from negative $50-some-odd thousand to suddenly having a net worth of $30 million only in America, right? Not. And so whether it's Swalwell or Gonzalez or Ilhan Omar,
your job depends on reliable tools. That's why Harbor Freight is committed to offering quality tools.
I don't care what side of the party aisle you're on here. It just so happens that a lot of the fraudsters seem to be from Minnesota, overwhelmingly of Somali descent, and from Ilhan Omar's district, Democrats. I think you got to get to the bottom of that. And I think that knowing what we've learned about Swalwell, it puts a very specific spotlight on all of these people, including, here we go, this is a story that I've showed you already, but they're going global here. They're trying to figure out where all this money has gone and if any of that was going through those venture capital accounts. that her hubby was running. Remember, he had the venture capital firm that wasn't. I mean, right? It's kind of like the winery that isn't or wasn't, that had no grapes. So there's a venture capital firm that's allegedly worth $25 million, a winery with no grapes, no vineyard, no phone number, no website, nothing, that's supposed to be worth $5 million. So that's where you start saying, okay, is this a money laundering operation? Because I think it is. I mean, this is how money laundering would work, right? You got to have some kind of inflated value for all these shares in the venture capital firm, because if somebody's going to buy into that and you're going to cleanse their money up, buying solar panels in South Africa, I wonder if the ex-hubby, AKA allegedly the brother, who now lives in South Africa, has anything to do with that. Just saying. I don't know. But somebody's got to start connecting these dots. And you can get these bank records. It's actually remarkably easy to get these bank records. And as soon as they go to Kenya and Dubai and Somalia and they say, we need these bank records, they're going to have to turn them over. And what they've got to figure out is whether or not any of the money was going to the fraudsters and then going through that VC or any of these various ventures that they had going on around the world. So this is a bad day for Democrats in general. It's a bad day, obviously, for Eric Swalwell, but it's also very bad for Ilhan Omar because it's renewing the spotlight on her, which is coming in an important time. It's a good thing for America. Hey, reminder, subscribe to the show. Share, like, make a comment. I do read all your comments. Normally we're live, but I am traveling. I'm in the UK right now doing a lot of reporting on what's happening with NATO.
Okay, I'm going to get going on the short clips, and then the last three will be bitty video, so I'm going to try to get a bunch of short clips. Hey, Spaz. I don't know if we played this one yesterday or not.
Hello.
Remember this one?
Last week, I held an extremely WTF press conference where I explained that I never spent any time with Jeffrey Epstein except for all the time I spent with Jeffrey Epstein. I gave my speech for many reasons. Most importantly, talking about Jeffrey Epstein distracts people from the war that was started to distract people from talking about Jeffrey Epstein. Yesterday, that war got worse when the president decided to blockade the Strait of Hormuz. And no one is more upset than me when my husband wants to do straight stuff.
This one all right?
So, to once again distract from the war, I would like to make the following announcements. Just as I rarely hung out with Jeffrey Epstein, I rarely cooked with Jeffrey Dahmer. We just had overlapping social circles in Milwaukee. I also want to insist that I am not a clone of Melania that was created to appear in public with my husband. I am the real one. Last, I want to put the rumors of marital trouble to rest by saying I live at the White House.
We'll go to
and I am
7 o'clock,
absolutely
guys.
in love with my husband. I am in love with my husband. I am in love with my heart. Oh, I can't do it. Bring in the clone.
How was that one, you guys?
What's up, family? Welcome back to Out of the Darkness. I am Q. So you guys know that have been following this channel for any amount of time. Very rarely do I talk about the popular stories, the stories that everybody else is talking about. Most of the time, I'm talking about the stories that people should be talking about, but are not. Those stories that I come across that I think, holy smokes, how did they hide this from the American people? And one of those stories I'm talking about today, there is a conspiracy underfoot by the leftists, by the Democrat Party, to ensure that Republicans never win another election in a very, very long time, or ever. So how do they plan to do this? Well, they plan to do this by completely dismantling the Constitution. Abigail Spanberg, the governor of Virginia, just signed legislation that would essentially give all of the electoral votes of Virginia over to not the person who won the state of Virginia, but would give it to the person who won the national popular vote. So they became the 19th state to do that. So far, there's 222 electoral votes that are pledged to do this. So 18 other states besides Virginia have decided that they're going to join this. Now, this becomes problematic because Donald Trump was the first person or first Republican to win the popular vote in a very, very long time. And even then, it was by the slimmest of margins. This is why the founding fathers were wise not to go with a popular vote, because we understand that it's impossible when we have millions of people in these large metropolitan areas. It would completely alienate the votes of people in middle America, people in rural communities like mine in Tennessee, people in rural communities, even in places like California. So this is why our founding fathers said, no, we're not going to do a popular vote, because that way everyone gets a voice. So these states have decided, hey, we're 222 electoral college votes in. They need 48 more votes. So now they're going after Arizona, Michigan, New Hampshire, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. That's 65 electoral votes. A combination of any of those states would give them this victory that they're looking for. This, if it were allowed to continue, would completely upend the Constitution and shift the balance of power. Like I said, we're winning. This is why these people are doing everything they can to tear up the Constitution to ensure that they can get their people in office. They know they can't do it because of their ideas. They know that they can't do it by persuading the American people. They know that they are not able to do that, so they have to buy votes and they have to operate illegally. Now, what I hope and pray is that in this process, I hope and pray that we will have a situation where the Supreme Court, if needed be, will rule in favor of the people and in favor of the Constitution. But because of recent developments, I do not want this to go into the Supreme Court's hands, because I can't fully trust the Supreme Court to do what it is that needs to be done. So you guys need to make sure, not only are you praying, but if you guys live in one of these states that I mentioned, you guys need to make sure you reach out to your state legislators, reach out to your governor's office, reach out to those people and let them know that you will not stand for a violation like this to our Constitution. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think that this is going to actually pass? Do you feel that this is something that is going to be a problem for us in the country? I'll wait to hear from you guys' response.
Okay, that's Q. A 4-minute one. With then 4 short California lady, and then the last 3 will be Vinny. Can't play that one. music. So I guess we will just go ahead and get the 4 short ones from the.
Because she could end up in jail for it, has now signed a law restricting access to guns in the state after the population became outraged by Governor Abigail Spanberger's corruption. On April 10, the governor had already signed 3 other orders to prohibit the sale of and access to firearms for the people of her state. Now she faces another wave of protests that could end with the corrupt governor behind bars. Even Spanberger's own voters are now criticizing her and withdrawing their support due to the numerous corruption cases in her cabinet, as they also face high tax increases, delayed salaries, and of course, policies that would pardon crimes committed by illegal immigrants using orders to set them free. My friend in Virginia, it seems your governor wants to replace you. If that doesn't qualify as treason, then I don't know what does, because it's clear that what the governor wants is to stay in power at any cost. By restricting access to firearms, granting leniency to criminals, and putting them back on the streets, and raising rents and fees, it's clear she has betrayed her own people. But the question here is, are you going to allow this?
Okay, 3 more. I haven't seen our funny lady on TikTok today, Lucy. I'm looking for her. She's not out today.
Here in California, and I hope it ends with Gavin Newsom behind bars. The construction of the California high-speed rail has so far cost taxpayers $120 billion, where overpricing was revealed under Democratic administrations that received billions from the federal government during the Obama and Biden years. Well, if I told you that this project, which was supposed to be operational by 2022, could simply be abandoned with your money wasted because of those damn politicians from the Democratic Party who used our money for corruption schemes. This is exactly what VP Vance's task force pointed out, a project that has already cost $120 billion, with projections adding tens of billions more to taxpayers. And now we've discovered that in 2022, Newsom invested even more money into a project that could be abandoned. And you, my dear, may not be from California, but know that you also contributed your money, as Obama and Biden sent nearly $30 billion in federal funds, with the largest amounts coming in 2022. This helped Newsom divert so much money to other areas, effectively turning it into a money laundering operation for Democrats. Funds were distributed across departments while the project stalled and now risks being abandoned. I'm Fernanda Perez.
Okay, 2 more. And we'll have 3 mini videos, about 10 minutes apiece.
After he fulfilled his promise and issued an order releasing 33,000 alien criminals to vote for the Democratic Party, because now, with Eric Swalwell resigning from the governorship and even facing arrests, Democrats have been left without leadership to replace the corrupt Gavin Newsom. Everything indicates that buying votes with money and drugs offered to homeless people wasn't enough. I remember very well that the governor, at the beginning of his term, funded a project with public money that cost $150 million to build housing for thousands of homeless people. The money disappeared and the project was never completed. And now, almost 8 years later, with the situation in California in the hands of this corrupt party, he goes and signs an executive order granting the release of 33,000 criminals arrested by ICE agents. I warned that he would do this. I warned that he would release these criminals when the state elections approached, and that's exactly what he did. The fraud in our state is so rampant that Democrats aren't even hiding it anymore, my love. Here in California, they could lose several seats in the assembly, and that's terrifying these crooks. Several states where Democrats used to dominate are now being taken over by people they claim are more honest and accountable. All that's left here in California, even with corrupt Newsom doing everything to keep Democrats in power, is the reality that he knows he's lost. It won't work. Those 33,000 criminal immigrants he released will be captured and deported.
Okay, last California video. And we'll get the last 3 mini videos.
after adopting fraudulent policies that generated chaos and corruption. Trump ordered reinforced controls at the borders with states neighboring New York after Mamdani announced a tax increase in the city, which had already triggered a wave of small business bankruptcies, with many now moving their operations to other states. And then Zoran Mamdani goes public and says that the collapse of New York City is President Trump's fault, that because the president didn't send him federal resources, the blame somehow falls on Trump. My dear, the socialist mayor of New York owes billions of dollars to the federal government. And Trump demanded repayment because the money was spent improperly to cover public accounts due to corruption during Mamdani's first 100 days in office. At a time when even the city's subway system has collapsed, employees are outraged that their salaries are delayed. They're not being paid because the city is out of money. The budget approved by the New York City Council was used for social programs that have turned into a real money laundering machine for New Yorkers. What we are seeing in New York is further proof that socialism, wherever it goes, creates chaos, corruption, and misery. What's lacking now is the courage to remove this miserable socialist before it's too late. Donald Trump said,
Hey. Caught up with her. We got 3 more, you guys. 3 more. About 10 minutes each.
I want to start by giving a tacit apology to Joe Biden. I just was unfamiliar with your game.
Over there.
Joe Biden was, in fact, one of the single most honest politicians in American history. And what do I mean by that? He was clearly somebody who stole an election from Donald Trump. He would lie all the time to the press. But because of his spiraling dementia and senility, there were just moments where Joe Biden blurted out the truth, a truth that probably is deeply politically incorrect, but he just told stories like this one. This is the famous corn pop story, where the story goes like this. Joe Biden was a white lifeguard at a black pool. A young black man named Corn Pop had too much pomade in his hair. Joe Biden called him a slur, called him Esther, pissed him off, and they nearly fought to the death. Joe Biden acquired a razor blade and a rusty chain and tried to kill Corn Pop. That's the point of the story. And that's not even a story that I'm not sure that Donald Trump would get away with telling. Oh, but Joe Biden did. You can call it Democrat privilege. You can call it whatever you want. But Joe Biden was constantly stepping in it and telling the truth in racialized settings. And it's like, really,
the other thing
really
we should do
funny.
is we should challenge these students. We should challenge students in these schools to have advanced placement programs in these schools. We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
Poor kids are as talented as white kids. And by the way, if you don't vote for me,
Oh, and
you're
if
not
you have
black.
a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
A reminder that Joe Biden, so proud of his black roots.
Songs for a simple reason. As my buddy from Delaware can tell you, when you're involved in the civil rights movement as a kid in high school, I used to go down to the black church. I go to 7:30 Mass. I'm a practicing Catholic. Then I go to 10 o'clock. And then we sit and plan what we're going to do in terms of desegregation. You think I'm joking. I'm not.
Oh, yes.
And
I spent so much time in the black church, says Joe Biden. How much time did you spend in the black church exactly? Do you have any proof of that? Because I have clips like this that show you like you're like a very, very scared dog in a corner right now in this black church. There's actually lots of clips like this of Joe Biden. Too many to show you right now. Joe Biden, I grew up in the black church. Joe Biden at the black church. Please, nobody rob me. Nobody remember what I said about LL Cool
great
J?
artists of our time representing the groundbreaking legacy of hip hop in America, LLJ Cool J.
LLJ
By the way,
Cool J.
That man's got biceps bigger than my thighs. I think he's an MC Light.
So tasty, it could make Poseidon switch to a spoon. Holy divine taste from the Greek gods.
At Fanatic Sportsbook, every bet feels rewarding. Earn fan cash on your bets and use it to bet, boost, and collect.
I did it.
Joe Biden, he is observant, if anything? Like, remember that time that he talked about the guy in his administration, the Secretary of Defense, the black guy?
Because I named the Secretary of Defense a black man.
Oh, man. You know, you kind of miss it. Kind of miss it. At the time, black commentators were saying, I miss Trump.
Man, where's Trump?
Yeah.
Get this motherfucker out here. Motherfuckers, they feel like they would rather get it raw.
Okay. We've lived through a lot. It's been exciting. And it remains exciting. Very interesting timeline. What are you doing? Excruciating moment as Joe Biden summons black man and calls him Barack on stage. Well, it kind of looks like Barack. But again, not a thing you're allowed to do. Here we go.
What are you doing? I want to turn around to one guy and say, Barack, what are you doing?
Barack, what are you doing?
Come here.
He points to the black guy.
Come here. Come here. I feel like he should be standing on the right and I should be standing on the left. Hey, did you try to look at Barack? Anyway, as they say, you've done good, fella.
Well, you know, I tried.
Doesn't he look like Barack? Oh. And what does Barack look like? You know, there's a Joe Biden clip for everything. People are like, there's a Trump tweet for everything. And there is. And there's a Joe Biden clip for everything. Here's how Joe Biden described Barack
Got the first sort of mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook, man.
He's clean. Is this what Joe Biden meant here when he says this guy looks like Barack? Did he call him clean and nice looking? It's storybook, man. Oh. Brennan Carr saying, oh no. Another Biden banger. He's running. Joe Biden could run again for president. Just a reminder, not term limited out. Neither is Hillary. Funniest thing Biden has ever done this decade. I don't know. It's a pretty long list. It's pretty good. This guy looks like perfect level Obama for this to be not funny, not a dead ringer or anything like that. But when you look at him for a second, you go, oh, yeah, I actually see it. People defending Joe Biden here. Now the replies. He does kind of look like Obama. Joe Biden is a dimension-ridden racist. He thinks all black guys look the same. It's funny. Yeah, he does kind of look like Obama. Somebody put him side by side. He does look like, he has the Obama vibes. Okay. Well, he does kind of. The media's our problem. Joe Biden under fire for saying university trustee looks like Barack Obama. So who was this guy? Biden pulls the Syracuse University Board of Trustee Chairman Jeffrey Scruggs to the spotlight, saying he looks like Barack Obama. This was during the unveiling of the 46th president portrait at the law school. They were honoring Joe Biden. Joe Biden brings a black guy on stage and says he looks like Barack Obama and says, hey, you done good, fella.
Maury.
Biden. I was after my first year in law school. Let's listen.
Even when I got married in Scandinavia after my first year in law school, with a huge reception thrown by the Hunter family. And countless Bidens
you kind of miss it.
made the trip up from Delaware and Scranton to celebrate us on that day.
Don't you
just like
kind
they
of
had
miss
today.
it? You miss it just a little bit.
Even when I got married in Scandinavia after my first year in law.
True. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe this is why black voters decided to vote against Joe Biden in the 2024 election. I mean, voting more of a shift toward Trump than you've seen in a very, very large era.
Wrap it up for tonight.
Especially men under 50. Men backed Trump by a wide margin. Black voters moved to Trump. They remained overwhelmingly Democrat, but they still moved to Trump. 15%. Trump doubled his vote with the black vote. There you go. I can't believe that this didn't win. I can't believe that this messaging didn't win.
Neil and I got married in Scandalous after my first year in law school.
Why wouldn't that attract the black vote? I don't know. It's one of the world's greatest.
Okay, we got 2 more.
Field by Garden Health does a colon cancer screening that's really easy to do. And I want to
name 3 names for your latest.
Mini Move, a JJ, and a pizza.
Amen.
What is Pizzagate? It is the theory that the elites used code words like pizza to mask an underground sex trafficking operation that involved children. And if you think I'm insane for covering this, talking about it, and wanting to investigate it, look no further than the New York Times. Libs would say that I'm a conspiracy theorist, but what about the New York Times saying here that underscoring how mundane stretched into the potentially conspiratorial, frequent references to pizza in the Epstein files give fresh life to the discredited Pizzagate conspiracy theory, in which prominent Democrats were said to be torturing and raping children in the basement of a Washington restaurant. In an email exchange, Epstein, with his urologist, kept talking about getting refills available for pizza and grape soda. No one else can understand our love of pizza and grape soda. Huh? Wait, what? And they go on and on and on like this. By the way, we've checked. You can see these are the mentions of pizza in the Epstein files. There are thousands of them. So, well, what's this about? Of course, this kind of matches the strange way that it was talked about in the Hillary Clinton documents, emails. Hillary Clinton's campaign constantly banging on about strange deliveries of pizza in ways that, of course, you would never talk about pizza. And so that's where all of this comes from. And J.D. Vance last night talked about the strange pizza and grape soda comments in the Epstein files and said that they need to be investigated.
You said the Associate Attorney General said that. I haven't seen that quote, but here's my view on the Epstein matter. Number one, the guy was clearly a scumbag, okay? Number two, he clearly had extraordinary connections, both with intelligence services, both inside the United States and outside the United States, and also with a lot of very wealthy and powerful people, okay? Number three, I have been a firm advocate and will continue to be a firm advocate of where we have something. And you know, like, I'm probably more obsessed with this than most officials, okay? Probably more obsessed with this than most people even in this room, is when you see somebody who says something in an email that suggests, you know, there's one email I read, and it's been a little while ago, but it was talking about, you know, one person sent an email to Jeffrey Epstein saying, oh, there were some really nice, like, pizzas and grape sodas or something like that. And I remember it sounded like the Pizzagate conspiracy theory, but here it was in like an email from a guy. And my reaction to that was, we should absolutely investigate that person.
Okay, good. Like, let's go ahead and do that. This is something that sort of banged around the internet pretty hardcore yesterday. I remember it sounding like the Pizzagate theory. We don't ever say conspiracy theory here. We don't. These are theories. They're either proven correct or they're proven false. But you're free in this country to have theories that you work on in constructs, and you're free to engage in pattern recognition, as we constantly do on this channel. And this is what J.D. Vance is doing here. And J.D. Vance is talking about, again, the theory that pizza was being used as a code word. Even the New York Times describes as very, very strange. And J.D. Vance is someone who has posted for quite a while, these posts are from 2021, a possible interest would the U.S. government have in keeping Epstein secrets. Oh. If you're a journalist and you're not asking questions about this case, you should be ashamed of yourself. What purpose do you serve? I'm sure there's some middle-class teenager somewhere that could use some harassing right now, but maybe you do your job once in a while. This is J.D. Vance talking about, well, Pizzagate. The Jeffrey Epstein case is why people believe in Pizzagate. J.D. Vance is promoting this. Remember when we learned that our wealthiest and most powerful people were connected to a guy who ran a literal child sex trafficking ring, and then he died mysteriously, and now we don't even talk about it? These are J.D. Vance posts, and they, of course, gone viral. 66,000 reposts, 180,000 likes. You know that I'm not a massive fan of how the Trump administration handled this. I feel like full transparency instead of, fake empty binders would have been the wise route to do it. But nonetheless, Hillary Clinton is even being asked about Pizzagate now by Lauren Boebert. Hillary Clinton was asked about this, and she said this is an outrageous allegation that caused a deranged young man to show up with a rifle and shoot at a local pizzeria. And that's what they said. And they said, "You stop it. You're not allowed to ask any more questions." Well, we did ask a question of Lauren Boebert just seconds ago on our show about Pizzagate and about her questions here. And it's gone viral now. It's just been out for a second, but what she told us was wild. She says, "I'm getting my hands on Anthony Weiner's laptop, and I'm going to show you everything, especially in the life insurance file." Here you go.
I actually was working on getting the Anthony Weiner laptop because I want to see the files that are on this. And while we still had Attorney General Pam Bondi, she had sent me over to the FBI, and there is no active search warrant on that computer. And so they are saying that I'm unable to view it without a new search warrant. And there has to be new information. I think these Epstein files give us new information to look into the Anthony Weiner laptop. I absolutely want to know what was on there, what was the secret folder that was titled Life Insurance, that had frazzle.rip, where people get the frazzle drip story from. I want to see this video. If it's totally fake, if it's not there, I'll come out and say it. I want to see what people are talking about. These things don't just originate out of nowhere. So if it means issuing a subpoena from the Oversight Committee to get my hands on this laptop, then that's what I will do. If there's anything linking the Anthony Weiner laptop to the Epstein files, I will use that to get another search warrant. But I'm getting my hands on this laptop and looking to see what was in it. It's been said that FBI agents who went in and viewed this laptop, many of them are not alive anymore. And so, what is it with this laptop? Apparently, it's been said that many have committed suicide, that it was so disturbing. But also, a lot of people around Hillary Clinton and her cohorts seem to commit suicide, oddly.
There's a whole Wikipedia page.
A whole page.
Yes, that's right. There's a lot to unpack there, Congresswoman. So, why hasn't anybody seen what's on this laptop? And what do you expect to find?
Well, I think originally members of Congress were afraid of it. They were called conspiracy theorists, there was obviously the man who went into Comet Ping Pong Pizza and opened fire. Unacceptable. And so people just want to stay away. I don't want to be associated with it. I'd rather not know. I'm just going to believe the narrative and run with that. I have an election to win. No need to actually dig into something if it's going to cost me my seat and my place in office. So I want to see it. I want to know what's on there and investigate it. There are many things that we still need to investigate.
Yep. Sorry about that one, guys. I got a good one to finish the show with. We're caught up with Vinny. This will be the last one. Let's have Chico tomorrow.
Girl, you gotta get.
1 minute.
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. And of course, here's the meme of the day brought to you by 5mind.com. Well, friends, I think the consensus is pretty clear at this point, and I think that's especially true in terms of market consensus. As I was saying yesterday, according to all the experts, we were to expect the collapse of the global economy, markets running with it. But we're now on day 2 of the blockade, and the S&P 500 is about to hit $7,000. And that obviously would not be happening if Trump's strategy wasn't working. And again, while all the dissenters predicted chaos, the actual facts in the reports seem to be telling a completely different story. And I'm actually noticing a lot of these very loud voices who have been doom and glooming for the past month and a half, well, they've kind of gone silent. And that's probably because they don't have much to gloat about. But, well, we do. It appears things are going very well with this blockade, and it's on multiple fronts. Let me show you all the different elements. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, friends, so let's first start off with this report here. This is from Chanel Rion at OAN News.
These are huge blows to Beijing. The restoration of the East-West pipeline reduces any urgency for Beijing's calls for restraint against Iran. Every Gulf state is siding with the United States and going all in against Iran, China's top proxy. And Pakistan sending those jets and upwards of 13,000 troops to Saudi Arabia is another symbolic blow to China. Pakistan, you see, was a crown jewel of China's Belt and Road Initiative. And Pakistan sending assets to Saudi Arabia was not likely done with Beijing's approval. This is Pakistan hedging its allegiance and situating itself toward a more Saudi, US-centric Middle East against China's proxy Iran. Decades of Chinese foreign policy was just flushed down the drain this weekend. Beijing has spent painful years positioning itself as the sophisticated alternative to America's chaotic and declining interventionism. They've used this language for years. But when put to the test, America showed up with our gunboats and China slunk into the shadows. Its help as useless as its radar systems. Things could not possibly look worse for Beijing as they stare down the barrel of an upcoming summit with Trump next month.
There's a lot of moving pieces here, and a lot of this stuff kind of gets shoved under a rug or, doesn't make it to the top headlines. The media loves news stories that they could fearmonger with, that can get people's emotions riled up, like the fast boats that we were hearing about. Oh, Iran's got these fast boats, the majority of which are still intact. But President Trump clarified that, the reason they're still intact is because they don't pose much of a threat. They're basically the same kind of boats that, like, the Coast Guard is working with. They're little freaking mosquitoes. But they love focusing on all of those updates or, supposedly that China is sending anti-aircraft missiles to Iran, which is another report that, funnily enough, just kind of dissipated into nothingness. Most likely it's just American media, once again, simply pushing third world communist propaganda. But they love to focus on the stuff that makes you fearful and frankly ignore probably the most important movements. This, my friends, is massive. Pakistan is sending defense assets to Saudi Arabia. What do you think that tells you? Well, it tells you that Trump is winning. The pressure is mounting, and there's a realignment that's happening here. And it's not a realignment in favor of Iran, as Iran rises even more powerful than before, as the media was suggesting. No, it's a realignment in the favor of the United States. And this is a very important topic because Saudi Arabia, as we know, had security arrangements and guarantees with Pakistan. But once Iran started launching missiles at military targets within Saudi Arabia, the Saudis were pissed because Pakistan was supposed to intervene at that point. They were supposed to pick a side with their ally Saudi Arabia that they had a written defense agreement with. And they didn't because obviously Iran is one of their top allies. Well, I think the pressure has now mounted to a point where Pakistan realizes they have absolutely no choice whatsoever. And this is similar to the story that we were reading a couple weeks ago, or maybe not a couple weeks ago, maybe a week and a half ago, of North Korea refusing to signal any support for the Iranian regime. At this point, I think these despot dictatorships have kind of realized the writing's on the wall here. And one by one, they are ditching Iran. Iran is being left more isolated, more alone, and friendless than they've ever been. In other words, it appears the blockade is working. Iran is getting squeezed like never before.
Everything in red you see, that is an ocean-carrying vessel that has either oil or oil products. Everything in green is cargo. But you see the logjam here off the coast of UAE and also here off the coast of Oman? They've been sitting there now for several weeks.
The Iranians are trying to outlast us. The longer the war goes on, the longer their regime can hold off a revolution. But their economy is experiencing a crippling depression. This blockade's costing the regime almost $400 million a day. That's $13 billion a month. Plus, the Iranians can only store oil for about 2 weeks. before they have to start shutting off wells.
And this is a key factor. It's what I said early on during this ordeal. If Trump could figure out a way to kind of get the Strait of Hormuz flowing and meanwhile completely block the Iranian economy, eventually they're going to be bled dry. And this is because, similar to Venezuela, Iran's entire economy is basically oil. It's oil and like Persian rugs. And that, of course, puts them in a very precarious position. If that main economic artery is blocked,
I don't know who recommended Synergy to my family, but whoever did, I own.
it's game freaking over. There's nothing else. And this is why this whole talk of Iran being a global superpower has been a joke since day one. You're not a global superpower if all you have is one industry. You're an oil dictatorship, a paper tiger pretending. Very simply put, we hold all the cards. Trump has all the leverage in this instance, and he's not afraid to use it, and he is absolutely squeezing them. And that's having, of course, shockwave effects that are now seriously impacting China and Pakistan. Pakistan's the first to fold. China, I'm sure, is folding behind the scenes. But of course, because of, Communist Party practices, will never admit it publicly. But China's economy, in terms of energy, is almost fully dependent on energy from the Gulf of Persia. Well, there's a U.S. blockade there right now. I don't remember the exact breakdown, but I think 14% of their imported oil is coming from Iran alone. And so just the blockade affecting Iranian oil exports is basically enough to completely sabotage the Chinese economy. And then it gets even worse for them, considering, well, the rest of their energy imports are still coming from Gulf region states like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, etc. And so Iran is getting squeezed. And in the process, all of Iran's biggest nuclear-armed supporters are getting squeezed as well in the process. Arguably, even worse, because their economies are more integrated into global trade. Their economies are bigger. They have bigger populations. At least China does. And so the impact is going to be more significant. And unlike the Iranian regime, the Chinese government needs to keep a good face with its people. The Iranian regime could care less about their people. They'll just slaughter them in the streets. They would rather their people starve than ever surrender. I mean, that's very much clear. But China, I don't think, is on that same wavelength. In a lot of ways, they're a similar kind of autocratic regime as Iran, but culturally and historically, they're much more pragmatic and much more common sense. They're not diehard theocratic ideologues that would rather see the world burn. And so I think probably behind the scenes, they're working tirelessly to get Iran to the table. And I think Pakistan's doing the same thing. I think this is a signal. And again, it's those 3 points of pressure. There's the pressure coming from this American military campaign, the pressure coming from China, Pakistan, and other states, and then that ticking time bomb of the Iranian people who could rise up at any second. I think it's becoming increasingly clear at this point. Iran is right now in a position where they don't really have any other choice but to surrender, but to capitulate. Oh, and another factor I forgot to mention, it appears as though Lebanon is now planning peace talks with the Israeli government as well.
Today, Israel and Lebanon are holding direct talks in Washington, aimed at reaching a deal to disarm Hezbollah and develop peaceful relations between the two countries.
Now that Hezbollah has been so severely degraded, the government in Lebanon reached out for us for talks. This is mediated by the United States. This dialogue between Israel and Lebanon has started, which is aimed at disarming the Hezbollah terrorist organization, removing them from Lebanon, and establishing peaceful relations between our two countries.
We're also seeing Lebanese media figures calling on Hezbollah to be exiled from the country. And so one step at a time, it appears as though there's a shift, a realignment that's happening, all completely out of favor with the Iranian regime. It's basically like one domino after another that's falling. And pretty soon it appears the Iranians aren't even going to have any money to fund terrorism or any of their war efforts with. From what we understand right now, they're losing $400 million a day. At some point, they might even have to start capping their oil wells when no place to store the outcoming oil anymore because you're unable to export it and get it on the water. You're going to have to start capping those wells. And then, you literally start running dry. Well, posture is nice and all. You can stick your chest out and act like a tough guy all you want. But when you've got no more money to pay your troops, to pay your proxy groups in foreign states, at some point, you're rudderless. You're useless. You can't do anything. And that appears to be the inevitable here. I think we're not the only ones starting to see that. I think markets are seeing that. I think Iran's allies are starting to see that. And I think ultimately Iran is going to be forced to see it. I'm hearing whispers that negotiations are set to be back on track pretty soon here. There's also another report suggesting that Iran is refusing to test the U.S. military in the Strait of Hormuz. And so again, I don't want to make a declarative absolute statement, but it does certainly seem, when you analyze the facts and the reports, that Trump is doing this damn thing. They told you it was possible, it was stupid, it was naive, he was going to cause an endless war, the same mistakes as neocons of old, yada yada. But as many of us predicted, it seems like the president is pulling this off. And I think if he does, it's going to be very hard to make the argument that this was unnecessary or bad or misguided. 47 years of hearing politicians squawk about a nuclear-armed Iran, the threat that that would pose to global trade, global security. 47 years of this, and he might shut it all down, not to mention realigning the world back on the US petrodollar, forcing European and Asian countries to buy US crude and LNG, putting China and Russia in their place simultaneously, also taking Venezuela. We live in a world, obviously, where Trump can do no good, and so no matter what he accomplishes, the same actors who are fiending for attention all over social media will tell you that actually here's why it's a bad thing, but that, that reads like a typical CNN headline. Trump could cure freaking cancer, and CNN would tell you, well, Trump cures cancer. Here's why that's a bad thing. It seems we're getting closer and closer, and I maintain that if he pulls this off, it's going to be one of the greatest foreign policy feats probably ever. A real global realignment, a total shift in the right direction. And while it may be a controversial issue now, and I'm sure I'm probably not doing myself a favor in terms of my commentary career by, pissing off all the people who are ditching Trump right now, I think in the end, when the history books are written, it's going to be pretty clear what happened here. Well, I say that, but maybe even that's a naive statement, considering history these days seems to be written by left-wing ideologues in these academic institutions, but we also know they're losing their power. And, really, the online hive mind is who really writes the history or records the history. And if Trump succeeds here, this success is going to be very hard to argue against or argue as a bad thing. Anyways, that's what I got. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on.
Okay, that's a popular channel there, you guys. All right, yeah, I had to do a few finish up things, and I'm all done running around this month. So tomorrow we'll get back to regular schedules. We'll try to get 2 shows in. Unless something breaks tonight, if anything happens tonight, I'll be on. So thanks, Bob, Kay, Lucy, Tim, Carol, and Brian Hagel. And God bless everybody. Love all. Please hit the like. Stay safe, stay strong, and keep the faith. Never give up. Signing off for the 15th of April. And Chico dude. See you all tomorrow. More good stuff.